One more time, we try this again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. It's Friday. We've had a busy week. I'm exhausted. But
It's Friday.
And it's Friday. This is the most important thing.
TGIF.
TGIF. It's Taco Friday, but I haven't had my taco yet. So it's a super sad day for me. Good morning, everybody. On behalf of the City of Laredo and the Human Resources Department, we welcome you to the 2025 CPM cohort presentation. It's Ms. Susan yesterday said that this is our fourth class to go through a CPM program, so it's an honor to be here with you all. I've seen you all from the application processes until today, and I said it on day one when you all started this process. This was a very competitive process. We had 3,000 employees and the 3,000 employees. This was the cream of our crop for this group, so I want to congratulate you. Thank you for being here. It's important to go through this. It's developing your leadership skills. It's learning what is public administration, and we are public administration. I've always said this: if you're public administration and you don't like serving the community, this is not your career for you. We serve the community, and I don't know. We have a passion for this, and I think that when it's been here for 5 years, it is a passion to serve our community. So with that being said, I'd like to also introduce our honored guest. We have Ms. Lola Maldonado, our tax assessor collector. She's here. And I'd like to also introduce Ms. Susan Foster. She is with Texas A&M and National University, and she's our partner. Ms. Susan and Dr. Baruna have been advocates for the City of Laredo, and I think we're leading. I don't want to brag, Ms. Susan, but I'm going to brag. The City of Laredo is, they try to mirror what we do, but I'm sorry, y'all. The City of Laredo is just dancing on the wall, so I'm very proud of that. Okay. With that being said, I'd like to also introduce our panelists. They've been gracious enough to accept our invitation, and we're honored to have them here without their input and information. It helps us grow our staff. So I'd like to introduce Albert Hernandez. He's no stranger to us. He's been through several of our leadership and classes. He's been he's in Laredo Community College. Laredo College.
Laredo College.
I'd like to introduce Ms. Daniela Rodriguez. She has been a couple of your classes. I think has it been through CPM or leadership? Leadership. And yesterday we had Ms. Linda Ramirez. Thank you for joining us again today, Ms. Ramirez. And today we have Ms. Alexa Howard. Thank you so much for being here. I would also be remiss if I also did not mention that none of this program could be possible without our employee relations team led by Sulema, please. And Jennifer, she's doing leadership today, so this is why Jennifer's not with us this morning. Our staff is everywhere. I think we've had trainings, we've had leadership, we've had CPM all in 1 week, so this little small division makes miracles happen, so without them we couldn't make this happen. Sulema was at each one of your sessions. Are you the perfect attendance? Yes.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
Actually, I was during my birthday. I think I was absent.
Okay, so she went for perfect attendance. She usually is my perfect attendance honorary. So, with that being said, our first presenter this morning is Dr. Vivian Martinez. She is the assistant director of the Detox Roots Center, and her topic is an empirical study on participatory decision-making, PDM, impact on employee satisfaction and retention, and financial impact to the organization. I'm going to run something today, so Doctor, it's all yours.
Can I say a few words?
Yes.
First of all, thank you for joining us today. First and foremost, I'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to the City of Laredo for allowing us the opportunity to partner with them in offering the Certified Public Manager Program to their employees. A special thank you goes out to the City Council, City Management, and especially Linda, Sulema, Jennifer, and Marta for their incredible support over the past 3 years. This journey wouldn't have been possible without your dedication and partnership. Today we celebrate the hard work and perseverance of 14 outstanding members of the current CPM cohort who have committed over 9 months of study, practice, and professional growth to get to this point. Their graduation is scheduled for June 9th at the Texas State Capitol, a well-deserved milestone we are all looking forward to. Although Dr. Haruna, our CPM director, couldn't be with us today, he sends his warmest greetings and congratulations. I also want to extend a heartfelt thank you for the members of the Practicum Review Panel, whose expert insights will help elevate the work and learning of our participants. For those unfamiliar with the Certified Public Manager Program, it is a nationally accredited comprehensive management development initiative. It is designed for managers working in federal, state, and local government agencies, as well as in nonprofit organizations. The program's mission is to improve individual performance and enhance the effectiveness of public sector organizations. Through a curriculum grounded in theory and enriched with real-world application, participants gain the tools and knowledge necessary to address the challenges facing their agencies and communities. In 2019, Texas A&M International University entered into an agreement with Texas State to deliver the CPM program here in Laredo. And in spring of 2022, TAMU expanded their efforts through a memorandum of understanding with the City of Laredo to provide the CPM program directly to city employees. That June, we launched our first cohort of 15 employees. Since then, we've launched 3 additional cohorts, including one made up of elected officials. With this cohort, we proudly celebrate having graduated 48 city employees from the program. We also partnered with Webb County, who wanted to imitate the city, for 25 participants that completed the program. The mission of the TAMU CPM program is simple yet powerful: to expose participants to the best and most effective principles in municipal administration and management as they have developed and evolved across the United States. Thanks once again to everyone who has made this journey possible. We are proud of what we've accomplished together and even more excited about what's ahead.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, good morning. And my name is Dr. Viviana Martinez. I am the director for the detoxification department at the Roots Recovery Center here in Laredo. And this presentation is in partial fulfillment of the Texas Certified Public Manager Program. And once again, the title of my study is an empirical study on participatory decision making, PDM, impact on employee satisfaction and retention, and the financial impact to an organization. So, brief background on participatory decision-making practices. So this study sought to explore what PDM practices in governmental organizations look like, specifically employee impact and the financial impact. And in the case for this research, no additional funding was required. The objective for this practicum overview consists of the practicum findings in terms of results, recommendations, some implementation and action plans, and a conclusion. So for this study, there was 2 main research questions. And it was, does participatory decision-making have a positive impact or effect on employee attitude and capability, which then were broken down into several sub-questions. And second question is, what impact does participatory decision-making have on employee retention and financial impact to an organization. And that question again was broken up into a series of sub-questions. So the abstract for this practicum, so it was an empirical quantitative study focusing on exploring the effects that PDM, participatory decision making, have on employee attitudes, which would impact satisfaction and retention. And furthermore, the outcome of the study provided insight into the PDM practices and how it would impact a financial organization. The researcher tested a series of hypotheses, which had several variables believed in the research to influence the level of employee engagement and commitment, turnover, job satisfaction, and the level of employee in the participatory process. It is believed that a lack of employee participation in decision making results in low employee engagement, commitment, resulting in high turnover, which then in turn has high financial costs for an organization. So to the literature review, the main limitation or gap is that PDM practices in governmental entities are found to be very limited. Much more, no literature was found on any studies done in governmental entities in the South Texas border, which would be our case. And the three main themes that came out in the literature related to PDM practices is that of cultural theory, which is related to employee satisfaction and retention. The process or framework of PDM, and in this case, it was the extent employees were engaged in the decision-making process, and job satisfaction, employees' perception and attitudes towards their job. So to the study sample, 50 invites were sent out. Out of those 50, 17 came back with responses. Participants were acquired through purposeful sampling, so they did have to be an employee of the selected organization, or governmental organization in this case. And the invite was done through email, which included an informed consent and details regarding the study. The methodology used in this study was a quantitative design, and specifically the utilization of Likert scale as a data collection tool. This was specifically done because I was just looking to gather close-ended question and data. So it's forced response. It was between 1 and 5, and it was very specific what I was looking for. So some of the limitations of the study in and of itself is the research design. This type of study does not allow for casual inferences or continue to get more information, as again, it was a close-ended in nature. The sample size is also a limitation. The limited number of participants, the small geographical region, and then the specific sector limited the number of responses. So to the practicum findings, one of the limitations is said to be the small sample size. But although through that I did achieve theoretical saturation, as across the board from the 17 sample responses, there was a low variability across items, suggesting moderate agreement within the group. And there is a pattern of agreement on items related to PDM helping individuals succeed in their job, that it increases performance and accountability. It increases the engagement, and that engagement impacted leadership's assessment or management's assessments of the individual employee's performance. And it is believed to be a useful tool in increasing employee engagement. And there was also a pattern of positive impact on items related to the belief among participants that PDM does have an impact on their individual performance. So being able to participate in that decision-making process does impact their level of performance. The impact on the individual's commitment to the organization as they felt a sense of belonging, and did have believed to have an impact on the organization's financial health. So continuing with the practicum findings, the data analysis rejected the null hypothesis that PDM does not impact employee attitudes and capabilities, and that it does not impact an organization's financial health. Therefore, the alternate hypothesis was accepted, that PDM participatory decision making does impact the employees' attitudes and capabilities, and that in turn also impacts the organization's financial health. So, right, there's really no purpose in doing a study if we can't get something out of it. So we know what the participants are telling us, but then what do we do with that information? So here's some recommendations that are supported by the literature and by what the participants shared. And that in governmental organizations, right, we should implement participatory decision-making processes. That by doing so, this would increase the level of engagement. So we should work on increasing the level of engagement and frequency of non-management personnel in the decision-making process. That we should work towards establishing a clear and concise understanding of the concept of the PDM framework. That was a big one because many don't understand what it is. And they feel that, okay, well, we're being asked, but it's a wink, wink. It's really not, you want to hear from me. It's you're just telling me. And so it's important that they understand that. And to be clear and specific so that we can ensure that employees are empowered and that their voices are heard. But how do we go about that? So these are the recommendations. And so what's our action plan? What do we do and how do we do it? So here we would work to implement an organizational-wide PDM program, and this would start with developing SOPs, or standard operating procedures, which would establish clear and concise process and of the PDM framework, clear goals and objectives for the PDM sessions, and create an evaluation tool. So we would, once our SOPs are completed, we would begin with holding workshops for management. It is vital that management team becomes facilitators. At that point in the PDM process, you're not a leader, you're not the manager, you're not the boss. You are in the role of a facilitator. And so we would need to work to get our management staff to be effective facilitators to guide PDM sessions. Facilitators would create PDM outline to guide their sessions and then hold practice PDM sessions among them. Once our management have worked to becoming effective facilitators, then we would begin to implementing workshops for non-management personnel. And this would be for them to learn and understand the PDM program, but most importantly, their role in the program. So non-management staff would be immersed in the PDM program by starting with small projects, and eventually we would involve them in larger scale PDM practices at departmental and the organizational level. And there would have to be feedback sessions, right? Again, we need to understand what's working, what's not working, how do we adjust for things as we go. So part of that would be to evaluate the PDM process for effectiveness and meeting the goals and objectives. There must be goals and objectives that are determined so that we know if we're doing what we sought out to. And not only would we be evaluating the program and the process and the protocols, but also the team members, facilitators, and non-management personnel to ensure that they're understanding the program, the purpose, that we're being efficient and effective, and most important, identify areas for improvement as we move forward. So in conclusion, employee engagement in the PDM framework has been found to have a significantly favorable impact on employee attitudes and performance and commitments. This positive attitude and performance in turn then reduces employee turnover. That reduction in employee turnover then translates into reducing cost of lost productivity, advertisement, hiring, and training of new staff. And that is how it translates into the organizational financial impact. PDM should be implemented in governmental organizations as a standard tool for employee engagement and retention. And before implementing, a thorough examination of the SOPs should be reviewed with ongoing evaluations conducted, and SOPs should be amended as necessary to include PDM practices. And that's what I have for you all today.
I have two questions
Yes,
for
ma'am.
you. Thank you so much for that insightful presentation. So if this were to come to fruition, do you think that this is something that can be used for all employees, or would there be like a selection process for
This,
PDM?
ideally, this would be for all employees. I can tell you that I do implement this in my department, and so I do include all the employees. And this is where understanding their role is important. I include everybody, and then whether or not they have feedback, I always tell them, you probably have questions, you probably have something you want to share, something you want to contribute. If you don't feel comfortable sharing it now, we can do smaller groups. But for me, this is important because this is how we also hold them accountable for their work. When it comes time to do individual employee evaluations, oftentimes throughout my career in leadership, I have heard, well, you told me to do it, but you didn't ask feedback. You're not the boots on the ground, so you don't know how it would impact. So involving everybody then gives them that accountability. And at that point in time, then we can, as leadership, we can say, well, Mr. Hernandez, you were given the opportunity. Ms. Howard, Ms. Ramirez, Ms. Rodriguez, you were given an opportunity to speak up, to voice some concerns, to voice some recommendations. And so this is why it's important that it has to be at the entire organizational level.
Okay. And my other question is, do you foresee a need or value perhaps in surveying people that participate, maybe before and after, to see like if there's a change in?
Absolutely, yes. So part of that evaluation process would, like I said, as I said, one would be the actual evaluator in the program, but also the individuals. And so having those, and that's why it would work better in sort of evaluation type workshop sessions and have pre and post, because that's the only way we're going to learn, where this is taking us, but also what else needs to evolve. We're always evolving. We're afraid of change, but the reality is change happens, and we have to go with what is going on in our community, in our country, in order for us to adapt to those things.
Thank you.
Very good job.
Thank you.
And I know you kept pointing to the smaller sample, and actually, your sample size wasn't that bad. You actually did a sample of 50 and got 17 back. So we know that the larger the pool, the better results that you'll get. What I would have liked to have seen a little bit more was more specific recommendations. It was kind of generalized. In the end, you did talk about turnover, right? And how the lack of participatory management can lead to higher rates of turnover, leading to higher expenses for the city, right? And we all know the high cost of turnover. And I'm sure you came to that conclusion, but I didn't see the data that mentioned that. I would have liked to have seen your questions, right? And specifically what questions you asked and what the results of those questions were, so that we could tie it in. You know what I mean? Because that's the only thing that I felt was I know I'm confident you asked these questions, But then you just gave me the conclusions without showing me the data that proved it, right? And so you just want to tie those two things in together. But overall, I think you did a great study, and it's an important topic. And I'm also an advocate of participatory management and having all members of the organization be a part of the decision-making process. That just helps buy-in, right? And I think that's where you're coming from, is that you want every member of the organization to feel involved. But very good job. Thank you.
That's it. Great job. I was really impressed with the presentation, Dr. Martinez. And I have one comment and one question. I'll start with a question. I know in part of your presentation, you referred to starting with smaller projects as people are getting exposed to this particular decision-making style. In foreseeing building into larger projects, my question is, in building up for larger scale projects, do you foresee including public input for projects that impact the community as a whole, right? Obviously, in some programs, smaller programs, the decision pertains to the activities within the program. But as you were to build that up and go citywide, departmental-wide, all across the organization, do you foresee some element of the public participating in those decisions that would ultimately impact or have a large impact in the community?
Yes, absolutely. We are a entity that is here to serve the community, so our public it's our consumer. And so just as non-management employees needing to be able to have a part in the decision-making, we do have to have input from our consumer, because ultimately that is the end, right? The individual with the end impact in it. So as we grow into it being an organizational wide, we have to look at our consumers, and we would have to have those sense of workshops or sort of town hall type meetings that turn more into workshops, so that also the community is able to give us that input on those policies and those practices that are going to impact them. So it has to be.
Yes, thank you. And then my comments, I'll say this is the last item I mentioned. Again, great job. The one thing I would have liked to see a little bit more is it's a perfect model in the smaller departments, getting the buy-in of the individuals with a direct connection with the leadership and the employees and staff. I would like to see some potential challenges in scaling up to larger departments that maybe have several layers of separation between the staff and the leader, and how those departments, how they're going to be able to develop this type of style of leadership in those larger departments. I think that would be impactful, because it's a great model, but we also know that the larger the departments, the larger separation between leadership and staff, the more difficult it is to get those buy-ins. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that they see the job as just a job. I don't want to get involved, but here's a model that's trying to engage everybody. And I think that's one of the challenges I would like to see in the presentation. Other than that, great job and congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm really excited about your project because my overall impression is that your action plan is clear and it's feasible. I see how it can be put into practice. The other thing is that employee turnover and burnout is a real world problem right now. And so it's something that many organizations are trying to solve, and it's timely and it's appropriate. So I like that about your topic. One of the things that I did have questions about was you talked about your research was limited, right? And so when I talk to my students, I tell them how important it is to triangulate the issue with terms of what is your problem, what is your solution, and what is your research. And I can definitely see what the problem is. And you were very clear about your solutions, but I'm wondering, when you say the research is limited, I'm sure there was research. So in this area, what was it that you used in place of the research for specific projects that entail this particular solution to these kinds of government organizations? So if you didn't see that, what was the research telling you about other organizations?
So the research that I found was, a lot of it was in academic entities and obviously the private business sector, right? So there was, several pieces of major, literature that I found, and I did go through resources such, the Harvard Review, utilizing the university databases. So that's what it was. It was no Google, no, I forget that one.
Wikipedia and
Yeah,
things like
that one,
Yes,
there you
of
go.
course.
I know, right? It was peer-reviewed articles and such. So in looking up, right, with my key search keywords, right, putting in governmental entities, what would pop out? I did have some that popped out, but they were not in the U.S., right? I found some that were from Italy, others that were mainly in Europe, where they were from. And so they did talk to the point of where it's not implemented, and it's because of that ideology of that government, hierarchy, and we make the decision for everybody else. And so that was the extent of the literature in terms of PDM in it, which some smaller communities would attempt to use it. So let's say, for example, like at the county or at the city level, but not at the state or at the federal level for them. And so in utilizing that information, that's where then I extract it from there to see how it could inform me and guide the research from what I did find. So there was literature, right, as to say, but it was limited in its. But then when it came to South Texas and putting there, right, or U.S. Mexico borders, I didn't find any articles, any research that has been done specifically in what would be a comparable community to ours.
So I really like the topic because I think that what you just said is so strong that if I were to give you feedback on how to make your presentation stronger, I would say it doesn't matter that it's a government entity, because what we look at is the fact that it's an organization. And you just stressed on a very important point, which is that it isn't just something that is here to South Texas. You've become from self-aware in your organization to now global awareness that it's not just here in our nation, it's across the world that organizations are struggling with retaining their employees and making them feel that sense of belonging, because that was something you talked about. So that's probably what I would put in my introduction, and go from it worrying about the fact that it's just government, but talking about it as an organization. And what do you see in an organization? There are people that make decisions, and there are people that have to follow them. And so when we look at that, the dynamics are the same. It doesn't matter whether it's a state entity, government entity, academic entity. The thing is that across all of them, we see the same issue. And that is the strength of your presentation. And I think in the introduction, if you would have made that a little bit more clear, it would have been on point in terms of the rest of it. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I also want to say that maybe moving forward, the study should be on breaking down those barriers that prevent participative management, right? Because even though we study that and we say it's the best way to make decisions, the larger the organization, the more bureaucracy within the organization, the harder it is to actually implement that, right? So maybe that's what we need in the city or in the state, is to change our way of thinking, right, into something that's a little bit more, that produces better outcomes than what we have continually done for the last 200 years, right? Like,
Yes.
Perhaps we need to find a change.
And I mean, I think that you could definitely tweak it and publish your findings, and you will be part now of that academic discourse of this particular leadership style that you're talking about for a government entity like the one that you're discussing. So great job.
Thank you.
You want someone to find your practicum on that database.
That's
that you're
right.
using.
Yes, thank you. No, and I just want to add, right, that with the obviously limited amount of time that we had in the specifics that they wanted for the course, right, I can see where you're coming from. But I also can see the larger picture as a researcher of where this can go to, and it being the stepping stone to this is where I started and this is where it can be taken. So I do have plans to further work on it to publish, and then also propose to management so that the city of Laredo can be that, spearhead that, and be a model for other organizations throughout the country and probably globally.
So in essence, it'd be that first literature talking about the border challenges.
and then we go out.
Absolutely.
Right? Because sometimes we want to go like this and save the world, but we have to start in our homes. So we start in and then we can go out.
And go out.
But thank you very much for your feedback. And thank you for being
Thank
here
you.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vivian, Dr. Vivian. Okay, the next presenter we have is myself, I'm going to Marcy. So Marcy is for the Community Development, she's the Assistant Director. And her topic is titled, The Importance of Establishing an Employee Engagement Policy to Enhance Employees' Motivation and Commitment. Ms. Marcy.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present my practicum. My name is Marcela Cervantes. I'm the Assistant Director for the Department of Community Development. I've been with the city for a little more than 14 years. My experience working in the city has given me a deep appreciation for the people, for the mission, and the impact that strong leadership and policy have. For my practicum, I chose to focus on the importance of establishing an employee engagement policy to enhance employees' motivation and commitment. Because I truly believe that employees are the city's greatest asset. Implementing a well-structured engagement policy is essential. It provides consistency, fosters a culture of recognition and growth, and ensures that employees across all departments feel heard, valued, and supported. Today, I will share the results from my research and data collection, along with recommendations that will help strengthen our organization and ability to retain talent, boost morale, and drive long-term success. So what is employee engagement? It refers to the level of enthusiasm, commitment, and emotional investment employees have towards the work and the organization. It's about how connected and motivated employees feel to their roles, teams, and the overall work culture. It's about how connected they are. Not just how much work they do, but also how they feel. Employee engagement is like a fuel. It's like the fuel in a car engine. Without it, the engine might run, but it is inefficient. With the right kind of fuel, the engine runs smoothly, powering the vehicle towards its destination with energy, precision, and purpose. This metaphor stresses how employee engagement powers the work of an organization. Just as a car needs the right fuel to perform as its best, a company needs engaged employees to drive success, productivity, and growth. Without engagement, the company might function, but it's not going to reach its full potential. So the question here is why establishing an engagement policy matters. Well, in today's competitive environment, employee engagement is essential. It's not an option. It drives everything from productivity and retention to innovation and financial performance. A strong employee engagement policy lays the foundation for a thriving organization. It serves as a roadmap for the organization to intentionally foster culture where employees feel motivated, valued, and committed to the organizational success. So what are the benefits for an effective policy? I believe the following three are the most important ones, which sets clear expectations, outlines what is expected from employees in terms of performance, behavior, and attitude, sets expectations for managers and leaders carrying the role in fostering engagement, ensures that engagement offers are standardized across departments rather than left to an individual discretion, promoting fairness, transparency throughout the process. The second one will be offers guidance, implementing programs such as recognition structures, career development opportunities, work-life balance initiatives, and team building activities. Serves as a problem-solving tool to resolve issues and ensures that managers not only understand their roles but also equipped with the skills needed. And the third one, which is last but not least, is fosters a positive work culture, encourages open communication, promotes recognition and appreciation for employees' hard work, supports diversity, equity, ensuring all employees feel valued and respected. builds community and teamwork by encouraging collaboration and creating opportunity for employees to connect with one another outside their immediate team. Data collection methods used for this practice. To effectively assess employee engagement and retention, the following three were utilized. Employee surveys. A total of 165 City of Laredo employees participated in this survey. I went ahead and sent it to all recipients. On the second day, I was very excited to receiving 132 people that actually took their time to fill out their surveys. And most of them, I would say 90%, placed comments, which was great. I also asked what was the average that you have been working for the city, and the average was 10 years. I also contacted the Human Resources Department for their exit interviews, and I examined the last 3 years and the reason for employee departures. The information helped identify recurring threats and key factors contributing to turnover. And the last was relevant articles and case notes, which highlighted best practices and strategies from other organizations. So let's talk about what the survey insights, areas of improvement. The employees survey highlighted several key areas for improvement that can enhance engagement, retention, and overall job satisfaction. The first one that came out was professional development. 61% of the employees are requesting additional trainings. They want additional trainings how to use AutoCAD, Excel, and the system that the city uses, which is AS400. They express a strong interest in developing leadership, management, and technical skills. There also is significant demand for trainings in customer service, project management, budgeting, public health, and communication skills. The next one was the leadership and management support. Only 40% of the employees rated the effectiveness of management in resolving issues. Employees requested more training in conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, and communication. The importance of a fair and impartial management was emphasized. The next one was employee recognition. 40% were satisfied with the current recognition programs in place, but they would like to see more monetary incentives, such as pay increases, bonuses, and also to bring back the merit increase. The next one is compensation. 57% of employees felt that their salaries were not competitive to those offered in the private sector or other government roles, indicating a need for more competitive pay structures. Work culture. 50% believe that the work environment is positive. So we're borderline, it's 50%. Suggestions for improvement, more team building activities, and the introduction of wellness programs were strongly suggested. Public recognition initiatives were also seen as beneficials. Communication. 37% felt that were treated equally and fairly. The need of an open and transparent communication between management and staff was highlighted. Employees felt that the better communication could improve collaboration, reduce misunderstandings, and foster a stronger sense of team cohesion. On the survey insights, also taken into consideration were the strengths and positive findings. The survey also revealed that teamwork and collaboration, where colleagues help each other and foster a sense of unity within teams. Also, benefits, which the benefits packet offered the city was appreciated, with many employees expressing satisfaction with their health benefits, retirement plans, and paid leave. A sense of fulfillment. Employees reported a strong sense of fulfillment from their work, with many finding it rewarding to serve and make a positive impact within the community. Job security was also identified as a significant motivator, where employees appreciate the stability that comes with working for the city of Laredo. Another question that was added to the survey was there was 89% of employees stated that they plan to stay with the city for the next year, but that number lowered to 76 for the same question in regards to 5 years. The exit interviews. On the exit interviews, the analysis of exit interviews provided key insights into why employees leave. which can help improve retention strategies moving forward. Separation type. Most separations were voluntarily, with employees choosing to resign or retire. This emphasized the importance of addressing factors that influence voluntary turnover, particularly related to career development and compensation. Reasons for leaving. Personal circumstances. Many employees cited personal reasons or desire to pursue better job opportunities. Dissatisfaction with pay was a significant factor, and also issues around management practice, interpersonal relationship, and dissatisfaction with work tasks, and other factors which included relocation, company policies, work hours, and terminations. In the past 3 years, there were a total of 421 employees that left the city. We have a total approximately of about 3,500. So in a year, it will be 140 per year. It's approximately 4% of the workforce. So what strategies were implemented from other cities? I went ahead and searched for that. The city of Austin conducted an audit that identified critical areas for improvement in employee retention. Based on the findings, they developed a comprehensive engagement plan aimed at improving job satisfaction and reducing turnover. The key focus areas for retention, based on the employee satisfaction data obtained during the audit, were as follows. Career development programs, offering growth opportunities, trainings, internal promotion to enhance employee skills and career progression. Employee compensation packages, ensuring competitive salaries, performance-based incentives, and comprehensive benefits to retain top talent. Flexible work policies, providing remote work options, flexible schedules, and paid family leave to improve work-life balance. They also focus on other key objectives such as enhanced effectiveness, fair treatment, attract and retain talent, fair compensation, and respect and fairness. Their audit findings revealed that the financial burden of turnover, noting that replacing an employee costs them 3 to 4 times an employee's annual salary. Austin loses an average of 1,000 employees annually. That's about 10% of their workforce. The high turnover rate underscores the importance of addressing retention issues to mitigate the significant costs tied to recruitment, training, and productivity loss. The other city was the city of Rockport. They have implemented an employee performance and retention policy that makes a holistic approach to employee engagement and retention. New employees receive detailed orientation that outlines job expectations, benefits, and responsibilities. They are given up to 6 months to adjust to their role before being granted permanent employee status. Regular performance evaluations are conducted to encourage skill development, goal settings, and career growth. The policy also emphasized creating a positive environment focused on clear expectations, open communications, and continuous improvement. So on their policy, they focus on career progression, compensation benefits, training, development, workplace flexibility, employee recognition, management support, employee engagement, and work environment. Their primary goal of their policy was to build a more engaged, stable workforce by fostering a supportive and communicative work environment. So on the recommendations, to foster a truly engaged and committed workforce, it is crucial that employees understand the organization's values and mission, and how their contributions tie with larger goals. An effective employee engagement policy should focus on the following key components. Enhance career development and training opportunities. Offering employees access to ongoing trainings, mentorships, and career advancement opportunities is essential for promoting growth and job satisfaction. Create a comprehensive commitment plan within the engagement policy that integrates employees' personal and professional goals with the organization's mission to create a sense of ownership and commitment. Revamp compensation and recognition structures. Regularly assess and adjust compensation packages to ensure they're competitive, while also strengthening recognition programs to celebrate achievements and milestones. Foster a positive, inclusive culture. Cultivate a work environment where diversity is celebrated and employees feel included, valued, and supported. Open communication and teamwork should be prioritized. Increase wellness and work-life balance initiatives. Implement programs that support the physical and mental well-being of employees, such as flexible work hours, remote work options, and wellness programs. Improve leadership and supervisory practices. Invest in leadership trainings to ensure that managers have the skills to motivate, support, and guide their teams effectively, fostering trust and respect. Implement and structure onboarding starting performance evaluation system. Ensure a smooth, consistent onboarding process for new employees to help them integrate quickly. In addition, starting the performance evaluations to provide regular feedback and set clear expectations for growth. Why invest in employee engagement? This slide highlights the initial investment required to implement an effective engagement policy and compares it to potential consequences of an inaction, which over time can have a much greater impact on the organizational financial health and culture. In the previous slide, I shared the key recommendations for enhancing employee engagement. Now it's important to address this practical question. Is there a cost for implementing this policy? The short answer is yes. There is some upfront investment involved, particularly in areas like additional trainings, recognition programs, and employee development tools. However, this should be seen as a strategic investment. In fact, studies show that replacing a single employee can cost the organization up to 4 times their annual salary when you factor in recruitment, onboarding, and lost productivity. So the cost of doing nothing is often much greater. By investing now, we're not only supporting our workforce, but also protecting the city from long-term financial loss, improving performance, and building a stronger, healthier workplace culture. Implementation steps. The total estimated time is approximately 4 to 6 months for full implementation with ongoing efforts of monitoring and adjustments. I divide it into 4 phases. Phase 1 will be the preparation and planning that will take approximately up to 2 months. That is finalizing the engagement policy, developing training materials, and creating a communication plan. Phase 2 will be the development coordination. That's about another 1 month. That's when we align with human resources, engage management for buying, and collaborate with department heads. Phase 3 will be the policy launch and rollout, approximately 3 months. Launching the policy through events, delivering trainings, and surveys of employees to gather baseline data. Phase 4 will be the monitoring adjustment, which will be continuously. Regular track progress, adjust program based on feedback, communicate updates, sustain engagement. So to successfully implement the employee engagement policy, coordination with key stakeholders is essential. Includes HR for aligning practices and tracking engagement, leadership for securing buy-in, managers for fostering team engagement, finance for budget allocation, legal to ensure compliance with relevant laws, and employees that will provide valuable feedback to refine this policy. To conclude, I firmly believe that with a clear strategy and a strong commitment to these initiatives, we can transform our workplace into one where employees feel valued, motivated, and ready to contribute their best. Thank you all for your time and attention to this presentation. A special thanks to management, the professors, my colleagues for your ongoing guidance and support throughout this process. Your feedback and encouragement have been truly invaluable. I would like to open the floor for any questions or feedback. Thank you.
Marcela, thank you so much for your presentation. When we think about the people that comprise of an organization, we know that we're working with people who have different priorities, different needs depending on their stage of life. And so it's exciting and refreshing to see something that is available from a holistic perspective, right? Some people are gonna care more about other things than others, right? And so thank you for that. I can appreciate that. I want to refer to something that you said, and I want to make sure that I've got it correct here. So,
Yes, of course.
when you were talking about the responses that you got on the survey, I thought it was very telling that a lot of the people who responded have been around for at least 10 years on
Correct.
average, right? So that was nice to see. The employee recognition responses are aligned a lot with compensation. Did you get any other responses other than compensation monetarily?
Yes, I did. They wanted more time leave. That was another one of the items that they were
More paid
requesting.
leave, or-
Yes, correct.
Okay, okay,
And flexible work schedule
okay.
as well.
Excellent, okay. And then, in the research that you did looking at other cities, I think you said Rockport starts their program at 6 months.
Correct.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any thoughts about what that could look like for the city?
In my personal opinion, I think it's great because you set expectation for employees, and so they can know if that's what they really want to do. Because you put them in and you provide them the guidance and support, and they see within 6 months is that something they see themselves doing. So
Okay.
yes, I would support that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm impressed. In how thorough all of your presentation was, all the way from your introduction to making sound recommendations and, understanding the importance of the follow-through, right? And after implementation, continuing to review results, right? If you have to change them or not change them, so that was very good. I'm curious, how many questions were on your survey?
My question, to be honest, it was about 10 or 12 questions. And it was more on their work environment, what they see that was needed as an improvement here in the city of Laredo.
And did you, in your survey, did you did you gather any data on the age of the participant or how long they had been with the city?
The age, to be honest with you, no. The time with the city, yes. It was from anywhere from 6 months up to 28 years, if I'm not, almost 30 years, to be honest.
Did you notice a difference between the employees that had been here longer versus ones that had been here for 6
No,
months?
actually, it was almost the same.
The same across
Yes,
the board?
correct. Across the board.
I was curious about the age because something that, a trend we're starting to see is that younger generations, of course, we're seeing multiple generations in the workforce now, and younger generations are, I guess, less enthusiastic about staying loyal to an organization. They don't stay for very long, right? And a lot of it has to do is that they're seeking higher compensation. And that never used to be the case in the past. People always used to seek better benefits, right? Like a lot of what your study showed you, that if, they have better benefits, work-life balance, they're happier in the workplace, and younger generations, and maybe it's because a lot of them are working in gig economies, right, and they're not working for large structured organizations, but I was just curious if you had collected that data, but maybe in a future, something to look at. I was also very excited that you looked at exit interview information.
Yes.
Right, because that's collected in most large organizations, but then very rarely looked at and information is drawn from it. So I'm glad you had the opportunity to look that through. But other than that, like I said, I was very impressed. It was very thorough. I'm curious now. Maybe you can go back and have a longer survey. And you got such great feedback. I mean, 165, right?
I got
Yeah.
I got 165 response, and in 2 days it was 132 response.
Yeah, and that's
most of them-
probably because they liked the subject matter, right? And it's something that they wanted to comment on.
Yes.
And that's also insightful, right, for the city to know that, okay, everybody returned this survey, this means something to them, right? They're engaged in this,
Yes,
and so
and
it's
there was
something you need to address.
Correct. And there's a comment section, which I was very happy to see a lot of comments in it. People took their time to write it.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Well, I want to congratulate you on having a large response in such a short period of time. I think a lot of researchers would be thrilled to have that type of response. It's the voice of the individuals, the employees. And following on what Linda mentioned, exit data is there, but it's rarely looked at. The sad part about exit data is that we're gathering an insight on the person on what they think and feel while they're part of the organization, but we're collecting that data when they're already separated. It would have been, if we could come up with a way to get that information before they leave, and as you pointed out, the financial impact that it has on an organization, I mean, that'd be a great thing to be able to implement. And part of your results, what really was very intriguing and really touched me and made me, pay more and more attention to what you were saying. For a lot of people that are attracted to public service, a lot of individuals, really like the benefits, the stability of the work environment. And it was interesting to see two things that I picked up on. And it was kind of like a recurring theme, even when you pointed out the Austin and the Rockport information there. And this has to do with career and professional development, right? And this program is basically that, the different leadership programs, the CPM program that you all are participating in, is a move in that direction. My question is, you in a leadership capacity in what you can do or continue your study is, what recommendations would you suggest to embrace career professional development of employees, right? Some people, they're gonna take the opportunity. Some people are not, but seeing that a lot of individuals are looking for that, what is that telling us as an organization, right? So I think if you think a little deeper on that recommendation of what does that really mean, and you might be sitting on a gold mine right there. And the other thing I want to mention is just a question, food for thought. And how can the concept of management support, because this was another theme that I picked up on, be something that can be implemented into your current practice, right? So other than better pay, the flexible hours, we live in a time where people want more of that flexibility. As a governmental organization, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, especially in a leadership position, to adjust salaries. And obviously, that comes from council and the recommendations that come about. But in the management support, how that's something that you can touch within the individuals within your capacity in your offices. But again, how can that concept of management support be something that can be implemented within your current practice? So I think if you take that in there and start expanding that, it can really make a change within the organization. Again, thank you and congratulations for your presentation.
I echo the sentiments of my colleagues in that I think that your presentation was excellent. It has a very strong triangulation with the problem and solution. I would have liked to hear more about your literature review, because based on everything that you presented, I know that it's strong, but it doesn't come across in the presentation. The exit reviews, I think, are fantastic because we help to see the employee landscape from their perspectives. And the way that you present it, I can tell the passion that you have for making your organization better. And I think that comes through in your presentation with the balance of the slides and the insights. They really help to strengthen your presentation. Some of the things to just consider in the future when you present this, you do talk a lot about the numbers under the finding topics, which I think are great. You just put in a percentage, right? So that as we're viewing it and listening it to it, we can see. And then you did have an exit survey, but I wonder, what is the turnover rate here for us in our organization? Right?
Here it's 4%.
4%.
Every year.
And did that impact your decision at all to research this topic?
Did that impact? At the beginning, I didn't have that information, to be honest with you. But I think employee morale makes a very big difference for productivity. You want people to be happy, and that makes the city a better place for everyone, including customers.
Okay, and the other thing I would just mention briefly is that I believe that you did an excellent job with the use of your data. And I think that the recommendations that you have are great, but I think they're somewhat ambitious. And so if I would tweak that, I would start with, these are recommendations. However, number one recommendation is to start here, right? Because it may be a little bit overwhelming to say, oh, great, this is all we have to do to get, you know,
Yeah,
the team to not leave. But it could be, from all of these, the one that came highly rated from the research that I did is, boom, that one.
Yeah,
And then what
I
can we
wrote
do?
that down as well, that maybe scale down your recommendations. There were quite a bit on there. And if you were to present it, I think that would be correct. It would be a little overwhelming to city council or anybody who was trying to implement that.
But overall, thank you for your passion and your service.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do y'all need a break? Do y'all want a coffee?
I think we can go through one more.
One more, okay, let's do one more, and then we'll take a higher break. Okay, the next presenter that we have is Barbara Escamilla. She's with the Riddle Health Department. And her topic is leadership without titles, to case for building leaders at every level in non-leadership roles.
Which is the last one? Well, this one was weird.
Thank you.
Good morning. First, I want to give honor where honor is due. Thank you for taking the time to coming in here out our practicums. I appreciate it, and I know we all do. I want to also honor my director, Dr. Chamberlain, and my assistant director, Miss Erica, because they are individuals who value innovation and the wellness and the happiness of their employees. I'm very blessed to be a part of their their staff. I want to thank Dr. Cerda for being here, my administrator. And thank my team and the TEMI professors for everything they've done, as well as my classmates. I've learned from them as much as I have from So once again, my name is Barbara Escamilla, and today's presentation is titled Leadership Without Titles, the Case for Building Leaders at Every Level in Non-Leadership Roles. This is my love letter to the public servants of the city of Laredo. During this presentation, I'll be using the term non-leader or individuals in non-leadership roles to describe individuals who do not hold supervisory, management, administrator, or directory positions. I'll also be using the term self-leadership, which is the practice of influencing your own thinking and the behavior to achieve personal and professional goals. In any organization, non-leader employees far outnumber those in formal leadership roles. Many employees stay in the same position for years because they don't have plans to pursue education. Perhaps they're content where they're at, or even if there were many individuals who wanted a leadership role, there just aren't enough positions for everyone. And so many employees, they stay in these roles. Nonetheless, public servants are essential in carrying out the organization's objectives and service delivery. It is the organization's duty to influence their drive. It makes sense that relying solely on monetary incentives or the hope of promotion is not enough to motivate employees, and it's not a sustainable approach. And we can agree that it would be ideal for motivation to come from within the employees. The purpose of this study is to explore the development of non-leadership employees, their perceptions of self-leadership and leadership training, how the city of Laredo can invest in them to enhance morale and efficacy, addressing a gap in existing research. So why? Why study the relationship between leadership development and non-leaders? Well, first, I was inspired by the quality management track from the CPM program. This track inspires leaders to seek and to develop employees across all departments, recognizing that each individual contributes to the overall success of service delivery, and it promotes the idea that improvement is a shared responsibility, which encourages organizations to invest in the growth and training of all staff. Second, research shows how the leadership mentality offers a strategic avenue for enhancing intrinsic motivation, organizational citizenship behavior, self-efficacy, organizational culture, and employee morale. Did you know that employees with leadership qualities, regardless of their formal title, often embody self-motivation, and they require less external motivation to excel and to contribute to the organization? The connection between the leadership mentality and positive employees' qualities is largely overlooked in existing employee development strategies in non-leaders. We did research for this practicum. Currently, most research focuses on leadership development for individuals in formal leadership roles, such as supervisors, managers, directors, CEOs, and the like, but overlook the potential of non-leadership employees to influence organizational outcomes. There's a critical gap in understanding how leadership development impacts individuals without leadership titles, particularly when career advancement is not an immediate incentive. But mainly this topic was explored because leadership practices are not confined to titles. This researcher asked, what factors, if any, influence non-leaders' employees' morale and employee efficacy? Sub-research questions include, what roles do intrinsic motivation and self-efficacy play in driving employee engagement and performance in non-leadership roles? How does integrating self-leadership strategies into organizational development initiatives enhance intrinsic motivation, organizational citizenship behavior, and self-efficacy among employees? And in what ways do employees with high intrinsic motivation and self-efficacy contribute to positive changes in organizational culture and employee morale? A list of definitions for these terms are in your folders. It was important to review the existing literature to see what is already being said about these themes that the practicum explores. For instance, research shows that when managers support intrinsic motivation and leadership development, employees become more engaged, confident, and purpose-driven. Even those with low internal motivation respond positively when they see that the organization is investing in their growth. Leadership and self-leadership skills improve performance, morale, and teamwork, ultimately strengthening organizational culture and success. Because motivation, leadership qualities, and employee development are pivotal drivers of organizational culture, I wanted to explore these themes amongst the employees of the city of Laredo. There were 54 participants that responded. The sample was obtained through purposeful sampling. All participants were not in managerial or supervisory positions. The sample was diverse between the ages of 18 to over 25. 83% were female, and the rest were male. Annual income ranged between the $10,000 to $19,999 bracket, all through $90,000 through $99,999. Education ranges from high school, diploma, or equivalent to graduate degree. Tenures include individuals who have worked less than a year all the way to 23 years. And participant positions varied across the department, and they're listed. We had from caseworkers to nurses to assistants to aides to technicians to sanitarians, inspectors, coordinators, clerks, customer service representatives as well. Data was collected from this sample through a structured questionnaire, and questions were asked in a way that responses were quantitative. Questions were answered in the Likert scale model as well as through multiple choices. You have a copy of all the questions There were 12 demographic questions as well as 33 questions across all themes. Questions were asked to attain participant perceptions across these themes, and the results were very telling. Hold on to your horses. Okay, so most 63% felt self-leadership training would make them feel valued, and 75% agreed that all employees should receive training. A strong 77 expressed interest in leadership training, and 79% want to be recognized for when they act like a leader. Leadership development was seen as a driver of commitment, with 61% stating it would enable greater work contributions. 73% expressed a strong desire to develop leadership skills for their organization, and 56% agreed training would increase their commitment even without financial incentives. 61% expressed feeling undervalued in comparison to individuals with formal leadership titles, and their incomes ranged from the $10,000 to $19,999 bracket all the way to the $70,000 to $79,999 bracket, indicating that feeling valued is not necessarily tied to an income level. Additionally, 68% of this group also believed employees without leadership training face fewer opportunities, suggesting that leadership development is viewed as a pathway to workplace equity. About 71% agreed self-leadership improved teamwork and encouraged contributions beyond their assigned responsibilities. So imagine having 71% of individuals saying, yeah, if you invest in my leadership training, I'll do more than what you asked me to do, because I recognize that you see me as a leader. Over half believed they would provide more voluntary assistance if they saw themselves as leaders, and 62% stated they would take initiative if they were seen as leaders, regardless of title. Participants who agreed with these statements spanned all ages, from the 18 to 24 age bracket all the way to 55 to 64, and across all education levels, indicating the desire to take initiative isn't confined to a specific demographic. So we can cultivate initiative in anyone. 62% stated self-leadership training would boost their confidence in overcoming challenges, and 60% believed it would enhance goal setting, a reflection of workplace self-efficacy. Self-leadership training was seen as a strong driver of organizational commitment, with 76% agreeing it fosters mutual support. Similarly, 71% felt it would improve coworker collaboration. 71% said if we receive self-leadership training, we think that collaboration is going to grow in this organization. More than half believed that training would reduce workplace conflicts. Notably, those who believe self-leadership strengthens teamwork had organizational tenures from 1 year all the way to 23 years, suggesting that both newer and long-term employees recognize leadership skills' value in fostering collaboration. 62% agreed leadership training would improve workplace enthusiasm. More than half felt leadership training would increase job satisfaction. Leadership training was seen as a motivator for engaging in leadership behaviors, with 54% agreeing it would encourage leadership actions even without a formal title. Among those who expressed the motivation to be developed with leadership skills, 65% also believe leadership training impacts workplace opportunities, driving a positive perception of being developed. So were the research question answered? Yes, they were answered. The findings show that leadership development opportunities play a significant role in shaping employee morale and self-efficacy. Findings suggest that leadership development plays a key role in fostering intrinsic motivation, encouraging employees to be more engaged and proactive at work. Leadership training also supports self-efficacy by helping employees build confidence, overcome challenges that are beyond their assigned roles. And to answer the last research question, findings reflect that employees with strong intrinsic motivation and self-efficacy are more likely to foster a positive work environment and engage in behaviors that support organizational success. So do the findings align with my prediction, and do they align or reinforce the literature? The findings of this study align with this researcher's prediction that non-leadership employees are interested in self-leadership development, even without financial incentive or promotional incentives. Employees support leadership training, seeing it as a way to boost morale, boost confidence, and boost workplace engagement. The findings reinforce literature on self-leadership, intrinsic motivation, and workplace engagement, reinforcing that leadership isn't limited to formal titles or formal roles. Employees at all levels can benefit from self-leadership training strategies. Now, we know that in our organization, leadership development exists, but there are some gaps in the current opportunities. There's limited availability. Not every employee can participate due to enrollment caps of 100 individuals for general leadership trainings. For the leadership development program, there is selective criteria, and it's only 15 individuals. There is also no set time for all individuals to go and participate. Some job duties require for them to stay back because it's service delivery, such as a medical office assistant, right? Or someone that does customer service or collects payments. There's also just focus on upward mobility. The courses often focus on formal leadership roles rather than equipping employees to act as leaders within their current spheres of influence. There's narrow applications because many of these courses are geared towards those in managerial tracks and mastering their skills for their management position. Currently, there's also a lack of identification with leadership itself. 61% of the sample stated that they either feel that they don't embody the leadership qualities or that they embody some qualities but would develop from leadership training. What's next? Well, this proposal has a timeline of 21 to 25 weeks to roll out. First, I would like to work with the HR department to develop a plan of action for implementation. We start off with 3 strategizing meetings within a 4-week period. Who would be the key players? Who we want to get involved? What is it that we want to make sure is included in the content? Continue to work with HR to create that content for trainings. We'd invite employees who have masters and PhDs in leadership or organizational leadership, because there are some here at the city, as well as individuals who have been practicing self-leadership for years. We contact these individuals, we invite them to participate. Once we get the yeses, we go ahead and we send the outline out, and we give them 5 to 6 weeks to work on the content. We're also going to have, within this time frame, meetings with IT, because some of the trainings would be like the mandatory ones that IT sends, they would just be video, virtual ones, but we would also have in-person ones. Once the people who are creating the content send it back, we would review and give feedback, give them another 2 weeks to work on it. They return it, we review, we give feedback, we return it 2 more weeks to work on it. They give it back to us, we do final edits within 2 weeks. Once the content is created, we determine who will be delivering the sessions. It'd be another 2 to 3 meetings to discuss scheduling and rollout. We'd involve department directors to reinforce the validity of these trainings and assign HR to keep administrators of the trainings accountable. Then we'd have meetings with HR, IT, and HR liaisons or training specialists to see the date that we, when we would start training the individuals who are going to be administering the training. So we train the trainers. And we would set the date to when we could already launch this. So that would be another 4 weeks. Sessions, so the session delivery at a glance, what would it look like? Sessions would be implemented during onboarding and once a year through a video training and twice a year through interactive training by each department's managers and supervisors. The mentality behind this is introducing leadership concepts early ensures that every employee from day one understand the value of self-leadership and collaborative behaviors. Second, we're already managers and supervisors are already meeting with their teams. So we just need to ensure that 2 of those meetings out of the year are for the self-leadership development. They would have the content, and it makes sense that there would be some area for personalization, because it's different to train someone that works with machinery to practice self-leadership versus someone who's working at the clinic at the public health department. So the basis would be the same, but we would provide room for personalization for those real world examples. And we would measure the intervention's success through self-assessments, pre and post, as well as through the annual employee evaluations that we're already doing. So why consider the implementation and go through with these recommendations? We saw it. 77% of the sample expressed an interest in leadership training. Findings show the positive perception of non-leader employees being developed in leadership and self-leadership across all the themes. What would be the future outcomes? Well, reinforced skills and real-world confidence thanks to practical scenario-based exercises, enhanced team dynamics, as well as leadership behaviors throughout the entire organization, and increased engagement and consistent application of leadership principles across all departments. This will lead to higher retention and productivity as backed up by literature review, and we would have sustained professional growth, meaning improved daily operations, innovation, and decision-making. Lastly, a strong foundation will lead to long-term professionals as well as a cohesive company culture. Thank you.
I don't know, I'm starting to go first every time, but I'm excited.
Yeah, we've developed a pattern.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barbara, thank you so much for this. I have to tell you, throughout the entire presentation, very comprehensive, very entertaining to see you talk about this and express this, because you can see how passionate you are about this program. So very thrilled to see that. So there are several questions that I have, a lot to unpack with the information that you provided. There is a certain level of autonomy, right, for the person who wants to be a leader. You have to be willing to do that, right? And you talked about, maybe there aren't, direct implications in terms of promotions and things like that. What do you think are things that motivate people to do that, leadership?
That's exactly where the practicum started. At the very beginning, when I would talk to the professors, I would tell them, I would love to see a city of Laredo, and I'm referring to the employees, that are self-motivated, that they have that intrinsic motivation, that they practice organizational citizenship behavior, that they are not downcasted by the mundane, by the repetition, or just by burnout from serving the public. And so my question did start with motivation. And so I said, well, the key here is intrinsic motivation. What if it just came from within them? But how do we influence intrinsic motivation? We can influence it, we can help drive it, but we can't instill it in them, right? And so I was like, some of my peers were like, oh, we can monetary incentives. That's not always realistic. And so I said, I think that who are the people who we usually see out in the world who have that self-motivation, who have organizational citizenship behavior and self-efficacy, and they have a high morale, and they're the most productive leaders. That's why they're there. And then I kind of related it to your sphere of influence and how you can be a leader of your be it your team, or you can still act as a leader. But sometimes people don't know that they have it within them. Sometimes they don't know what it looks like. And so self-leadership training is different from regular leadership training, because we know that regular leadership training is geared towards being a manager and an oversight and getting the opinion from the people, and then you being the one who ultimately decides. And so self-leadership you do it for yourself. And so that's what it's about. How can we motivate individuals more and increase their intrinsic motivation? It's hard. We can give them the tools and kind of show them what those mentalities are through self-leadership training. And that's our hope, that then we would see if this intervention works.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I love your passion. You need to slow down a little bit. You were like blowing through some of the data slides, right? And I wanted to, spend a little bit more time on there, so definitely slow down. But I do want to commend you because a lot of the questions I started writing down, you were starting to answer. So it means you really thought through this presentation. So you did a very good job, by the way. I want to start with that. And one of the things you brought up, and I had written it down, was are non-leaders given opportunities to participate in this practicum? And you even said that. Well, no, there's a lot of different reasons why they work in customer service or unable to leave the position. And that's an issue, right? How come this practicum isn't open to everybody, right? And so maybe, and that's neither here nor there. I mean, there's probably reasons for that, or you can go back. But another thing that I wanted to talk about was commend you on was that you said that we should start with the onboarding process of letting employees know that yes, they can speak up, yes, they can take on leadership positions, and that's very important. I think if you get them right at the very beginning, the work is a lot easier moving forward, right? Because it's a lot easier to start from the beginning than then try to change behaviors, right? So you want to instill the behavior right in the beginning, so that was really good. And then the last thing that I want to talk about was, and I'm curious if this is kind of what I got from your data result. And by the way, I love that you had so much demographic information or demographic questions on your data. It goes back to what we talked about in the second presentation where I asked, did you get the age group and things like that? Because we need to start having a better understanding of the different demographic age groups and their mentality. And because you have to manage them differently. The way you manage someone who's in Gen Z is not going to be the way you manage someone who's a Gen X or a boomer, right? They have different intrinsic motivations inside them. So I'm glad that you pulled out that data. But one thing that I thought from your data was, I think the employees think that they need permission to be able to step up. A lot of them said, well, if I had training, I could. If I had this, I could, right? And that goes back to management giving them the autonomy to make decisions for themselves.
I agree.
Right, and so that's kind of what I got. I don't know, I was the one, did you get the same kind of, from your data, is that what you learned too?
A conversation that I was having with Dr. Cerda when we were talking about the practicum, I said, sir, I think it's within the team, you give each one responsibility. For example, the team is here, woo! And for example, sometimes it'll be like, okay, like Anna, you're in charge of the telepsych. All those numbers, like those Excels need to be updated. Like, I want you to make sure that they're updated. She's not the only one who works on those Excels. Stephanie also works on those Excels, and Roxana also works on those Excels. But I'm giving her that responsibility so she has that weight. Stephanie, you're in charge of the intern schedule. She's not the only one that's helping out with scheduling, but she's also making sure that Anna and Roxana are gonna be saying like, hey, did you already make those calls? Okay, so I'm like, hey, Steph, like, is everyone called? Mm-hmm. She's gonna wanna say yes. So it's also about giving them that responsibility and knowing them that they can take charge. Letting them know that, like, hey, what's your opinion on this? Hey, what's the best option for our team right now? What will work best? Letting them know that their opinion matters. And I see that in our team, but I also see it like within the division. Like before it was the supervisor, it was about, hey, Barbara, what do you think? And sometimes it's like, can I disagree? Am I allowed to? And it takes a supervisor that say, yes, disagree with me. Yeah. Tell me what you don't like about this, or tell me what you would do different. And so, yes, autonomy, I think I can relate it closely. I didn't mention autonomy as a theme, but self-efficacy, the belief that you can, that it's very closely related.
And I'm glad you also mentioned the importance of the manager or the supervisor doing their job. So I teach management and supervision at Laredo College, and I get a lot of, like, from our advisory committee telling me, you need to teach the students to be self-starters. You need to teach them to do this, to be good communicators. And my response is, And what do you need to do, right, as a manager? Because oftentimes managers put a lot of the responsibility on the employee to just know, right? But it's the manager's job also to give them the autonomy, to give them the responsibility, or to tell them it's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to have a difference of opinion. And hopefully your data showed that as well. It's not just what we're lacking in the employees, but also there, from your data, hopefully we got some, what the managers need to start doing.
And well, some
Right.
questions were a little
Yeah.
strong.
That's okay.
You guys can take a look
Yeah.
at them. But I do ask individuals questions. I can't remember.
Like how, what do they think of their managers? Or do your managers satisfy your personal needs? You know, that's important to know.
Yes, similar to that. And
'Cause
so
a
like,
failure
it's like,
doesn't
do
have
you
to-
feel
doesn't-
valued? Like
Yeah.
that question, do you feel valued in comparison to those who have leadership titles?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, some said like, no, I
Yeah,
feel like I'm not as
Yeah, that
valued.
doesn't surprise me.
Or
if
that,
they
do you
say
have
that.
enough opportunities? And they say
Yeah,
no.
and they'll say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's your, I think your data was great, right? And yes, it's a reflection on the needs that the employee has, but I think it's also a reflection on some of the deficiencies that take place within departments as well, right? And that can also change, that can also get better. So very good job.
Thank you.
I love your questions.
Well, congratulations. It was a very well put together presentation, particularly your enthusiasm. I really want to congratulate you on that. The passion is very, very clear. The topic is one that intrigued me a lot, right? I actually want to share a book that I just started to read, and it's titled How to Lead When You're Not in Charge. Yeah, leveraging influence when you lack authority. So if you have an opportunity,
it's very on topic.
it's interesting because even leaders will change across their own careers. Sometimes you lead a few, sometimes you lead large departments, sometimes it's the amount of funds that you're managing, right? But many times it's the impact that you have that it's directly with, in the case of, let's say, the current thing that I do right now, working directly with students, or impact program development. So individuals are going to grow throughout their lifetime, and I think what you have shared in your presentation is very insightful, the data that you presented. And one of the things that I would love to see is, obviously the data is great, there were great questions, thank you for sharing that with us. But I think with your impact and your enthusiasm, including interviews to do a qualitative study and getting more in the insight of individuals in what's really going on. Obviously, yeah, just like in any study, we only have the data that we're able to collect, right? And my assumption is that those individuals that responded are the individuals that are crying out to be developed. They want to have their voice heard. But I think there's a lot of individuals that there's a lot of data that we don't have here, and I think we can obtain that by talking to individuals that might be willing to share that information. So the one thing that I have is just basically that, the recommendation to do a qualitative study.
And I like that, and I
Yes.
agree with it. Something that we learned in the track, Dr. Haruna shared, like a survey. It's a picture. It's a glimpse in time.
Just a snapshot of that.
And
Yes.
you can interview and survey those same individuals the very next day,
It's going to change.
and it's going to be completely different. So I like that, and I like the idea of maybe also including focus groups and making it conversational.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think that's great, especially with your passion on this particular topic. The one thing that I did find a little bit interesting was, I think it's a great recommendation, but going back to the title of the presentation, Leadership Without Titles. One of the recommendations was to basically create a group and tap into your existing resources. Those individuals with master's degrees and PhDs. What I found a little bit interesting about that is that it's using those individuals with titles. So my recommendation is to find those informal leaders in the organization, because there's a lot of them out there that don't have the formal education, that don't have the formal training, but they have the charisma, the passion. People are listening to them. These are individuals that would be great to tap into their resources because they're natural leaders. Leaders can be educated, trained, developed, but there's a lot of individuals that are doing the exact same thing without any of the titles. So my recommendation to that is include individuals that are in the informal leader capacity. But we have to be careful here because a lot of individuals that are in the informal leadership roles can also be detrimental to an organization, right? Because they'll listen to them, but they're not following many a times the goals and the directions of the organization. But tap into those resources that are there. Overall, excellent presentation, and I recommend that book. Right?
I really like that recommendation.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Well, just like my colleagues reiterated, I mean, I think that your passion speaks for itself. I can tell that you're somebody that is very much a leader in your team and in your group simply by your motivation and your optimism, which is great. What I loved was the use of your organizational images. I love Laredo. I love the way it comes through in your images. Very dynamic, very active. One of the things that I would say is you gave us this folder and it was great, and I would have loved to see a list of your references or some of the research that you did in this topic. You had a lot of data, so maybe kind of combining that data into one specifically for the areas that are connected, where you have a bar graph or chart, because you do have a lot of information to get through, and I think this is what my colleague mentioned, it kind of felt a little like a speed run through it. At least in a bar graph, it allows me to see, right? And I see where that connection, the trends are. A question that I do have, because you're talking about people or employees in an organization that would want to be leaders, and your recommendations are very specific about what they should do, but I'm wondering if we are trying to reinvent the wheel, like if it's already been done. So does this implementation not exist already in terms of the organization within the city of Laredo? Because I know that there's different programs that are existing for employees, so how would this be different?
Specifically, it would be the self-leadership. Yes, it would be self-leadership. We have, there's a whole umbrella of different types of leadership, from transformational to authoritative. And this one specifically would be self-leadership. What is awesome about self-leadership, it's very about that self-motivation, self-goal setting. It's about kind of changing your thought process. So like I said, we do have leadership trainings that are more geared to refining the skills that people in management already have for their management day-to-days. But this would be more, self-leadership is about developing a mentality of, I can do this, I'm not going to let this get to me. I can go the extra mile because that's who I am and that's what I do. So I don't think it's reinventing the wheel, because I don't think that we are specifically trying to influence a mentality. And so it would be a leadership mentality that we would want to instill through self-leadership.
So I think that part of the presentation would be that it isn't that the organization doesn't have leadership, right, experiences for employees, because I know there's some, like for example, the one that I'm doing, leadership and ethics, where I've got people that are supervisors and people that are not supervisors, that are starting from the very beginning stages and are looking to improve. So I would like to see where this already exists, however, your form of leadership development is different. And so that if you could have what already exists in terms of, this is some of the programs that already exist within the organization, but this is how it would be different. And I think my colleague mentioned about, it's not necessarily about the titles. There's people within your organizations that are valued because of the experience that they have, the respect that they command, those quiet leadership skills that you cannot teach humility. And yet that is something that some of our people have, that you say, wow, that's the reason that they get things done, because people will gravitate towards them because they are transparent, they're ethical. And so those are some of the things that maybe this is where it would be different, right? One of the questions that I didn't see that I think would be interesting to ask would be, have you participated in leadership opportunities within your organization? Why or why not? Is it lack of opportunities, lack of time, lack of courage? Because in there, if we were to get a percentage, we'd be able to see, is it because maybe their day-to-day, are we not considering maybe people that have children? And so then maybe we need to offer them at different times, or
That
lack of
makes
opportunity.
complete sense. Yes, That's
And
wonderful.
so that would just be one of my recommendations for this, because I think lack of courage also speaks to the supervisor. If a lot of our people feel that I don't want to go into it because I'm afraid of failure and maybe I'm imposter syndrome, then we need to do more on our part as leaders to make sure that we are recognizing our team when they are doing those things and letting you be perfect for this, right? But that's just a suggestion, but great job.
Thank you very much.
We're running a little bit behind, and unfortunately, one of our panelists is our leadership professor. So are we okay on that?
Yeah, the other one doesn't start to 1, but I do need to run to the bathroom.
Okay, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break. They need to take care of some.
Yes, thank you.
Watch the video and stand up. It's about 19 minutes.
Smile. Wait, where do I punch? Oh, here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
happy porque voy a estar así. Compared to other departments, we're doing a lot, like additional things. No, afterwards I'll take a picture. You know, they talk about leadership, yes, we have, some additional components. So I think that there was sort
Normally don't drink coffee, but I'm gonna do so today because it's so cold.
It's cold. I don't drink coffee. Some iced coffee somehow.
And I'm the person that's always sweating, like I'm always hot. So this is an unexpected surprise. And I've seen some of the exchanges that happen in here. So I'm wondering if the temperature's not a some
Makes
kind of
everyone,
assume.
well, maybe it makes it makes them more
Less
irritable or more irritable. I don't know.
Because I know that there's a correlation between when it gets hot and people's irritability and how they, explode. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I think I'll probably be at an hour because I've got to be at the. Yes.
Or I could text you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we stick to the time. It is with more panelists, it's more comments, and it goes a little longer.
I mean, I think that it's better for them because they get more from the experience, but. But I just had my Atkins in the morning, so I've got to grab something to eat before I do my 1 to 5, if not forget it.
I feel like my eyes are gonna pop out. Yeah. Yes, it's yesterday.
Like, something fine. I was like, oh, wait.
I normally am fine, but I don't know, whatever's in the air the last couple of days is. That's because I've taken Claritin, I've taken Zyrtec, it's all of it.
You know what happened about 2 weeks ago for me? I had to go to the Vitamin, and they gave me the levocetrizine spray and the pill, but it's kind of got the Astropro and the cetrizine together for 2 weeks, and it kind of like cleared everything out.
Okay, we can take our seats, we're getting ready to start. Okay, we can take our seats, we will be ready to start. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Yourself? Yourself, how are you? Good to see you.
Likewise, also. Good seeing you. Did it.
Very cold. Yesterday was freezing. I had to borrow a little. Trying to freeze this out.
The lack of movement.
Trying to get it through.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. I'm always how I am. Okay. I have something in mind.
And glasses.
Okay, part 2 of today. Okay, we have our next presenter is going to be Sandra Montalban. She's the Assistant Tax Assessor with the City of Laredo. Her topic is employee training on communication skills will enhance customer service and professionalism. Ms. Sandra.
Good morning, my name is Sandra Montante Aleman. I work in the tax office and deal with customers on a daily basis. The tax office not only deals with the tax customers, but we also supervise the utility customer service area. So customer service is definitely our priority. I would like to thank my family, my boss, my coworkers, and my co-host members, class members, for making this journey very, very memorable, very supportive of the whole program. Thank you.
Today, I will be discussing the importance of enhancing customer service and professionalism through communication skills training for city employees. As city employees interact directly with the public, it is crucial that they possess the communication skills needed to represent our government effectively. The purpose of this practicum was to find research how to enhance customer service through a communication training program. Effective communication is essential for delivering high-quality public service. Every interaction, whether in person, over the phone, or online, shapes the public's perception of our city government. It's not just about delivering information, it's about building trust, understanding needs, and providing solutions. As research indicates, when an employee has interaction with a customer, every contact point communicates something about the organization and its product. This is why we need to focus on improving how our employees communicate with the public. Poor communication leads to misinterpretation, confusion, and frustration, affecting customer satisfaction and the efficiency of service. But it's not about just being able to speak. It's about mastering the full range of communication skills. As Robles explains, communication requires a wide range of varied skills to be effective. It's easy to assume that communication is a natural skill everyone has, but in reality, it requires training to develop essential skills like active listening, clarity, and empathy. We've had situations where customers visit City Hall for an irrigation meter. They're sent to the annex only to be redirected back to the downtown area, wasting time and undermining the trust in the city's efficiency. This is precisely why we must invest in training that targets these specific skills and ensures that all employees can communicate effectively with citizens. In our city offices, we face several communication barriers that impact service delivery. For instance, unclear messaging can lead to confusion among citizens, and lack of empathy in difficult interactions often escalate conflicts. These barriers not only create frustration for citizens, but also contribute to inefficiencies and affect employee morale. Without strong communication skills, employees struggle to resolve issues or understand the needs of the citizens they serve. To address these issues, we need to focus on building communication skills across all levels of the organization, particularly those interacting directly with the public. Before diving deeper into the specifics of the communication training proposal, I'd like to provide a high-level overview of the research steps I took in my practicum to develop this strategy. This will show you the process behind the recommendations being presented today. I began with a literature review to understand the existing research on communication training in municipal settings. While there is no existing research specific to municipalities, the review confirmed that communication training is essential for improving frontline employees' ability to represent their organization in a professional manner. Next, I conducted a qualitative study where I surveyed 45 employees. The survey was voluntary and participants were made aware that no compensation was provided. This allowed me to gather authentic, candid feedback. For the methodology, I used Microsoft Forms to collect the survey data. This method ensured that employees could respond at their convenience and that their responses remained anonymous, which helped me improve the reliability of the data. The findings revealed that employees were open to communication training and that departments would benefit from periodic reviews of their mission statements and policies, ensuring alignment between values and communication practices. Based on the findings, I'm proposing a training curriculum that consists of multiple 4-hour sessions, allowing all frontline employees to participate without disrupting the department's daily duties. In conclusion, the research highlights that equipping employees with strong communication skills will significantly improve their performance, leading to better service delivery and stronger citizen satisfaction. With, with this comprehensive process in place, the next step is to outline how we can implement the communication skills training effectively. The proposed training program will focus on improving communication skills for frontline employees. The objective is simple: to ensure that every interaction with a citizen is clear, empathetic, and professional. The benefits: improved customer service. Citizens will have a more positive experience with the city, reducing frustration. Enhanced professionalism. Employees will communicate with confidence, building trust and credibility. Increased efficiency, clear communication, reducing errors, rework, and delays. Better conflict resolution. Employees will be equipped to handle difficult situations with calm and professionalism. Ultimately, this program will not only improve the citizen experience, but will also boost internal morale and create a more positive work environment. To ensure we were addressing the actual needs of our employees, I conducted a survey using two types of sampling. Snowball sampling for frontline employees consisted of 31 employees whose daily tasks are directly interacting with customers during their 8-hour shift. And purposeful sampling for management, 14 management employees who oversee operations and customer service standards. This mix ensured we receive valuable insight for both staff who interact with citizens and those who manage these interactions. The survey revealed that 100% of respondents chose either agreed or strongly agreed to the need for improvement in areas such as phone etiquettes and handling difficult customer situations. This proves that employees are open to taking communication training to help them. Additionally, the second chart shows that only 52% of respondents strongly agreed they had an in-depth understanding of their department's mission statement, indicating there is room for improvement. The data strongly supports the need for structured communication training program that can address these gaps. The training program will focus on the following key areas: active listening, ensuring employees truly understand the needs of the citizens they serve; clarity and tone, teaching employees to communicate clearly and respectfully using a positive, professional tone; conflict resolution, providing tools to handle angry or difficult customers calmly and effectively. In addition to listening, In addition to active listening, clarity and tone, and conflict resolution, one of the most crucial aspects of effective communication that employees often overlook is nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication includes facial expressions, body language, posture, and even eye contact. These cues can sometimes convey just as much, if not more, than words can speak. For example, crossing your arms might be interpreted as defensiveness, while maintaining eye contact can show engagement and respect. Our training will help employees become more aware of their own nonverbal cues and how they can influence the messages they're sending to citizens. We'll teach them how to use body language that aligns with professional and respectful communication we want to promote. By being mindful of nonverbal communications, employees will strengthen their overall communication skills and ensure the message they convey, both verbally and nonverbally, supports the city's commitment to providing clear, positive, and professional service. We will deliver a training through a combination of interactive workshops, online modules, and real-life role-playing scenarios, which will allow employees to practice new skills in a safe, supportive environment. The goal. The goal for today is to make management aware of the need of communication training so that funding can be authorized and allocated to the respective departments that have frontline employees. To make the program accessible, it will be conducted in 4-hour sessions over multiple days. This ensures that all employees can attend without disrupting the department's daily tasks, and feedback can be continuously collected to ensure effectiveness of the program. As mentioned, there are key communication gaps to address. Government employees are held to high standards of performance and accountability, and our entity must remain transparent, approachable, and accountable. These are crucial reasons for implementing this communication training program. If we implement a communication skills training program for the city of Laredo, we will have prepared frontline employees, improved customer service, reduced complaints, and enhanced response times. For this program to succeed, we need strong support from leadership. Leaders must model effective communication behaviors, encourage their teams to embrace training, and foster a culture of open communication. Leaders can demonstrate their commitment by participating in the training, promoting its benefits of their teams, and continuously reinforcing communication standards. Your support will not only help improve the city's services, but will also lead to a more positive, transparent, and effective workplace culture. In summary, communication training is an investment in both the employee development and citizen satisfaction. By equipping our employees with the skills they need, we can ensure a more professional, efficient, and effective service delivery. This initiative is essential for the city to move forward in providing exceptional public service and ensuring that every citizen interaction reflects the professionalism of our staff. Let's invest in the future of our employees and community by approving funding for this training program, ensuring better service and improved outcome for everyone. Thank you. Comments, open, and feedback.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I think customer service can go such a long way, and I definitely agree in terms of the nonverbal communication. That's definitely telling, and it can always set the tone for the conversation. I have a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. And so I want to say that I love that you talked about the fact that we have to be transparent, approachable, and accountable. And that leads to what I'm going to say next, right? And so in one of my first jobs, I was working at a pizza place. And we got a lot, we get good things, and there's always room for improvement. They actually developed a model for how to support people, especially when there are concerns, right? And so their model was an acronym called LEADS. So L stands for listen. You talked about that. Empathy, putting ourselves in the shoes of the consumer, right? What would it feel like? What would I feel like? Apologizing sometimes, even though it might not be our mistake, or there may not be a mistake to begin with, just, saying, I'm sorry, that can go a long way. Sometimes that's all somebody wants to hear, right? The D stands for do whatever it takes. I think we should think about what it takes to fix things depending on the situation, right? But S stands for stand by your promise, right? And so that's also another thing for effective communications. If you're going to say you're going to do something, make sure that you follow through. And so I wonder if in the implementation, I know we talked about the mission and things that we can review. Perhaps there's a way to provide something simple like leads, also to support people as they go through customer service, whether it's through the tax office or through another piece of the organization, another department, right? The other thing with that, and I love, by the way, the idea of leadership participation. I think that's very important. So my question to you is, and of course you're speaking of the, the areas that you work in, right?
Correct.
do we have some kind of data, maybe it's anecdotal, maybe there are certain topics that come up more frequently than others. I wonder if there's, do we like ever keep a tally of that kind of thing?
Of complaints?
Yes, yes. And like the nature of the complaints?
Yes, we do, ma'am.
Okay,
We do.
I can see where that would be really helpful, and maybe that's something that would be implemented in the trainings. But if there's something that's a recurring theme, I think that's definitely something that we should cover, because it seems to be something that happens more frequently than others, right? And so just a comment, I didn't know if that it existed or not, but I appreciate learning more about your practicum. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And right away you looked at me, you know I was second. Very good job. I really loved your topic. And at first I was like, I wonder why she chose this. And I'm like, oh, they worked in the tax office. That's why. Because you deal with customers that walk in every day. And then they're not exactly there because they want to be, right? I mean, they're there to give you their money. And so you talked a lot about this lack of empathy and how that leads. Did your survey results, or why do you think the employees in the tax office or any office in the city are falling into this kind of hole, right, where they,
Sometimes
like a
it
pit,
becomes-
right, of lack of empathy?
Sometimes it becomes a routine where you get the same question, asked 30 times a day.
Yeah.
So by the time it's already 4:45 and you're tired and you already answered the same question,
Yeah, the frustration. Yeah, that's good. And those are things that we want to learn,
and we
right?
have to train our employees to, this person that called you at 4:45 is not the same one that called, at 8:30 in the morning. And so that's one of the reasons that I think we lose track of.
Mm-hmm. And maybe explore that a little more, the reasons why we're having these missteps in communication, whether it's lack of empathy or not being able to read body language or whatever it may be. And I agree that we need to have really good and comprehensive training on all the different aspects of communication. Do you think that bureaucracy or policy and procedure also lead to this kind of burnout or lack of, proper communication?
I think we need to be refreshing on policies. Currently in the utility department, we've been changing our processes. Because we had COVID, we were doing some things, it finished, we did another set of instructions, and we just changed, and just recently, about 2 weeks ago, they changed again. So again, to communicate to everybody, and it's hard to pull everybody out. We're customer service. We can never close. We open at 8 and we close at 5, and customers are constantly either calling, coming in, or making inquiries online. So we try to respond as fast as we can and pick up the phones as fast as we can. And so it's very hard to pull everybody out. And we do have after-hour meetings, but sometimes your employees are burned out. People take a lot of energy from you.
Yeah.
And, we don't want to overburden our employees too. We try to work with them, but I don't think we've ever had a formal training of this is what needs to be done and follow and have continuous training. Maybe after a year, go through it again.
Yeah, and kind of related to that, you pointed out the importance that the role that leaders play. And this is why I kind of wanted to connect it, I'm sorry, I'm having a lot of allergy issues right now. Trying to connect it to the constant change in policy, right? And then the role that management and leaders play in that, right? Because the inconsistency, it makes it more difficult for the frontline employee to do their job and to do their job effectively, right? And so I'm glad you noticed that as well. I wanted to just point that was really good. Overall, I loved your presentation. I thought it was very thorough, and you did a wonderful job. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
So I want to commend you first by acknowledging frontline staff. Right? When we talk about leadership, when we talk about professional development, typically it's mid-level management, upper management, and in many cases, as the CPM program, even for elected officials, to be further developed. So I think in the minds of individuals, when we think about leadership, you think of a certain profile of an individual that fits that particular model. And when we talk about training for frontline staff, typically it includes the skills that they need to know about the ins and outs of their actual work. Here we're talking about developing them further because they're the face of that office. And for many times, it's the face for the whole city, right? So I do commend you for picking the particular area of interest for the frontline staff. And one of the things to recognize is that a lot of public facing offices are dealing with different customers. And some offices, they willingly, the customer is going to be there, they're glad to be there. And in some offices, such as paying for utilities, paying for taxes, they're already coming not very happy to give their money, right? It makes it even more challenging to work in that particular area. And one of the things that was very interesting for me, and when you mentioned in your opening statements, the example of a citizen, a customer, coming in, going to City Hall, to be sent over to the annex building, to be sent back to City Hall. You can see where that frustration can really build up. And I think a lot of what you spoke on is very commendable in the work of what you want to do and develop the frontline staff. But I think part of the training, and again, it's not at fault of anybody, it's what the public assumes. That just because you're a city employee, you know what every department does and what every function of every office is, and that they can come to any city employee and they're going to get the answer. We get that working in higher ed, thinking that you know the ins and outs of enrollments or how to work with the faculty and things of that nature. So I think one of the things that I would really like to see in your professional development package training is to incorporate some general knowledge of the procedures, not necessarily the ins and outs of the procedures, but the public facing offices of what the typical interaction would be. So that when a question comes about, at least we provide as much information as we can for maybe even an office that's not our own. And just helping that individual out, like my colleague mentioned earlier, just saying, I'm sorry that you're going through this, that really goes a long way. Even if you don't have that information, but being able to provide a little bit of info on what they need to do goes a long way. But I also recognize that when we take more time in that front counter, the other person behind them is getting impatient, right? So a lot of this information, the repetitive of what you talked about, is maybe even doing a public campaign on the processes and procedures of what can be done at each office, simplified for the public because of those repetitive questions that come about, so that then you can focus more on the quality of service, the customer that's there in hand. But if a lot of that information can be disseminated before they even get there, then half of the battle's already won, right? So again, it's really just more communicating, and I think you covered everything on the communication skills, but I would like to see the communication on flyers, on information, to limit that interaction possibility of a disgruntled customer. But other than that, again, I commend you for focusing on frontline staff. I think it's an area that is overseen quite a bit, and I do want to congratulate you on this particular
Thank
topic.
you. Well, Frontline is what drives our department, and we do appreciate their work, and we let them know that they're valued, and we appreciate them, but they do take the punches.
They're the ones, they're the face of the office, and
Punches.
unfortunately the face of the city at many times.
Yes.
And that one experience is either going to make or break the experience in the next office, right?
Correct.
So my hat's off to everybody that works in the front lines for the city.
Thank you.
Especially those that are showing leadership and are not in a traditional leadership
Absolutely.
title, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
thank you for that.
Yes.
So as my colleagues are discussing this, I think that that's one of the strengths of your presentation, is that you have a sound rationale for why implementing this training is necessary, right? I love your color scheme. I just have to say, you knocked it out the park. I mean, and research proves that finding the right colors for presentations like this are important, especially when you are covering so much information. I loved the way that you set the timeline of your process because it showed the meticulousness of how you covered everything in your practicum. Your charts are clear and easy to follow. Similar to what my colleague mentioned, in the further research part, I thought, do our customers or our community know what they need to do to seek services? And are we doing enough to help them have a good experiences by doing their part, right? In terms of, I'm coming in, do I have certain questions? And I know, maybe I think I've been in that office before, and I know they have at least a person that's in the front telling them where to go. But in terms of, okay, what do I ask, or what is your concern, or, to kind of teach our community as well, because I think part of this also, the frustration stems from, I've got to go. And unless you've been, this might be the first time you have to come to the tax office, but maybe it's recurring, right? And maybe the situation is different this time. And if it is, and they're not going to get helped right away at the front line and they need somewhere else, then that person would already know, versus spending time there and then being told they have to go somewhere else, right? So that was just something that I wrote in here to kind of consider. I do love that you talked about your research. You even gave me a citation, which is fantastic, because I think more of that needs to be done when we're looking at all this wonderful information is coming somewhere, right? And some of it is yours, of what you're discovering in your findings, but a lot of it is obviously research driven. So I like the fact that you put that in there. One thing to consider though is COVID played a big part in the interactions that we have on our daily basis and how people interact, communicate. So one of the research that you have there, I think is kind of older, right? It's a 2012. I would say keep your research 10 years, right? So that it's new, but it also takes those factors into consideration where, like we said, some of our employees, it's not necessarily that they don't want to, it's just that they don't know, right? What we mean when we talk about verbal proficiency, body language proficiency. And so the other thing to consider as well when we're looking at these trainings is, my question is, when a new employee comes in and they are given the opportunity to work in the tax office, what does the beginning training for them look like when they're on the job?
We do a lot of hands-on, shadow another employee, this is what's gonna happen, and they're pretty much, shadowing, and until, okay, do you feel comfortable? Now the trained employee shadows the new employee to help them out and get them going. But we don't have any formal training of the skills,
Perfect. So I think that would be a great addition. For example, to do like, when I was the director of the tutoring center, I would have mock sessions where I had an unruly student come and ask for help and I have a final tomorrow. I need this. Look at it now, right? How do you do? And I would say, you cannot lose your cool. It's about, I understand that you're confused. I understand that you're frustrated, but how can I help you, right? And so that's part of what you talked about in the empathy. So maybe that's the place to start, right? In those kind of trainings, tap some of those mock sessions so that at least they get a taste before they're even in there, and then you don't have to go back and kind of like, oh, let me fix that right at the beginning. So those are just some suggestions, but I loved your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next prisoner that we have Roberto Gonzalez, he's from the Laredo Fire Department. His talking point is going to be causes, symptoms, and solutions associated with employee burnout in the emergency medical services at the Laredo Fire Department. Mr. Gonzalez.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for taking time to come hear our presentations. So my name is Robert Gonzalez, and I am the Deputy Chief of EMS Operations with the Laredo Fire Department. I've been having fun at my job for 26 years, and I say that because I truly believe that if you love what you do, you are really not working at all, right? So I love what I do. I haven't been working for 26 years. I've been having fun. So when I came into the fire department, right, I started noticing that people would complain when a call would come out, and I couldn't understand why. I said, this is something I'm passionate about, right? EMS. I've always wanted to be. Since I was little, my dream was to become a doctor. I went to school. I was a pre-med in college. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I met my beautiful wife there and ended up getting married and didn't continue. But when I heard about the fire department and the opportunity of becoming a paramedic, I said, this is something that I would want to do. So I was fortunate enough to get selected and join the fire department. 26 years later, I'm here, right, enjoying my job, like I said. So my practicum, when they told us, start looking into what it is that you guys want to do, to me was very obvious. I want to look into why people get burned out, right? Why do paramedics get burned out? So my title, like they said, causes, symptoms, and solutions associated with employee burnout in the emergency medical services of the Laredo Fire Department. So my practicum target, right? Burnout among paramedics is a serious issue because it can significantly impact their personal lives, the team dynamics, and most importantly, the quality of patient care that they provide to their community. This practicum will aim to identify the prevalence, causes, and effects of burnout among paramedics and propose an actionable strategy for reducing it. My abstract. This practicum will discuss the common causes, symptoms associated with burnout and explore strategies to prevent its occurrence by focusing on its roots causes. The study identifies key stressors contributing to burnout by reviewing existing literature, by doing field observations, and by doing a survey. By addressing the burnout proactively, this practicum seeks to enhance medics' personal well-being, improve team dynamic, and ultimately elevate the standard of patient care in our community. So I started with a research question. My question was, what factors, if any, are the leading cause to employee burnout in the emergency medical services? That's where I started with the practicum. I went into my literature review. So with my literature review, pretty much I focused on these 5 themes, right? The first one was defining burnout in EMS. So I said, what exactly is burnout? Because I had never really heard about burnout before, right? Until I came into the fire department, like I said, and I noticed that certain people would complain about the call. Whether it was at 8 a.m. in the morning or at 5 p.m., they would be complaining. And I would hear the other people say, he's burned out. Is that burned out? I said, what exactly is that? So I did what everybody does, right? I Googled it. So Google defines burnout as a state of exhaustion, cynicism, and decreased productivity that can affect paramedics due to the high levels of stress and responsibility they experience. So my next thought was like, I wonder who came out with this. So the person that was identified as the creator or the one that associated the word burnout to this state was Dr. or a psychoanalyst Herbert Freudenberger, I believe that's how you spelled or how you pronounce his last name. He was in the 70s, he was working at a substance abuse clinic in New York City and borrowed the term burnout from the drug user slang, where it was used to describe veins that become useless after being injected into the same spot too many times. He came to realize that people, just like unusable veins, sometimes burn out, so he started using that term to describe them. So after reading that, I see what they were saying, right? Why they were calling the other people, oh, they're burnout, because they become useless and they don't want to do the work. So next I started looking into in literature as far as prevalence for burnout, and literature pointed out that there was 3 different kinds of burnout, but the most prevalent is personal burnout. And personal burnout was followed after work-related burnout and then patient-related burnout, which are the 3 burnouts that I was talking about. And with personal burnout is just exhaustion from the job, right? That's what everything was pointing at. From there, I started looking into the contributing factors, right, in literature. What is it that contributes to people getting burned out? So most of them were organizational stressors, emotional labor, constant exposure to emotional distress. So I kind of started looking into organizational stressors. What is it that is doing this to them? And most of the literature pointed out that the medic or the employee did not perceive the organization to backing them up, right? And having programs to help them out. Emotional labor, that came from the job. We are constantly exposed to high stressful situations, so that also contributed to it. And lastly, like I said, with the exposure to all those calls, eventually they lead them to burnout. So after that, I went to the consequences. I said, well, what does literature say, right? What consequences are out there for burnout? What happens to them when they start getting into this state called burnout? So usually all the literature would go back to the same, to mental health, anxiety problems, depression, and suicidal ideations on medics. My last theme on the literature review that I looked into was what interventions are out there to prevent burnout. Well, organizational support obviously was one of them. They also said resilience trainings, peer support groups, and a flexible scheduling, which I don't know if you guys know how the fire department works, but we work 24 hours on here in Laredo. We work 24 hours on and then we work 24 hours off when you're out in the line. And usually like a paramedic, his schedule, it's one day he drives the ambulance, the next day he attends, and then if he's lucky, then he'll have a day off, and then the cycle starts all over again, right? So changing that schedule could also help prevent burnout amongst them. So that was my literature review and the themes I looked at. So for my methodology, I used a survey, a mixed method approach of closed-ended and open-ended questions to allow participants the opportunity to submit suggestions. It was structured to answer questions on demographics, on burnout encounters on their part, work-life balance, work environment, and resource and suggestions. I handed out the survey to 35 paramedics with varying years of service. And then the participants, through purposeful sampling, obviously, right, because it was related to EMS, returned the survey to me using Google Forms. So and I'm just going quickly to some of the questions. I don't have all of them, right, but as you can see here, I used paramedics with different years of service, and they range from, when they begin from 1 to 5 years all the way to 21 plus years of service. Also, there was females involved in the survey. The fire department has very few female paramedics, but I was able to get at least input from 2 of them. So one of the questions obviously was going to be, have you experienced or have you ever seen a paramedic experience burnout? Obviously, by the answers, you could see that most of them would say yes, right? And if they have seen burnout, I also asked them, do you think that burnout has affected your performance or interactions with patients or coworkers? I thought I would get a higher response of yes, but I did get almost half of them saying yes, that it does affect them. Also, I asked them, since most of the literature said, organizational, right, and support, I said, do you feel that staffing levels are adequate to handle the workload in the department? More than half said no. So these are at the end of the survey, I also had the open-ended question where I asked them, what recommendations would you guys give, right, to improve the situation? As far as when it came to staffing and workload management, these are some of the suggestions they gave, right? The organization should expand its workforce to decrease employee workload pressure. They also said they should improve staff rotation schedules to create a more balanced distribution of emergency calls. Some of them said utilizing 2 ambulances in a busy station. Laredo has 15 fire stations, but out of those 15 fire stations, only 12 have ambulances. Now, the 12 that do have ambulances, some of them have a more busier amount of calls because of the amount of concentration of people that are in that district. So they were suggesting, like, for example, the station that is in Bartlett constantly is the station that has the most calls by far from the rest, right? They're saying like maybe in that station, putting two ambulances to where, they kind of alternate right on call. When it came to mental and health and wellness support, the question that the organization should establish mental health programs that provide stress management training as an optional or incentive-based benefit, and include a mental health day within a structured wellness program, and enable peers to offer emotional and psychological assistance. On the scheduling, rotate medics across different stations to avoid burnout from busy districts, and adjust the schedule to a 1 day on, followed by a 2 days off. Remember, right now it's the other way around. Right now, usually they go 2 days on and then hopefully 1 day off. When it came to the education and policy changes, they asked if we could put, the public needs education about correct 911 use procedures to prevent unneeded emergency calls. While the criteria for ambulance transport need strengthening to reduce unnecessary ambulance deployment. So on this one, what they were saying is that we often get calls that are not really emergency calls that require ambulance transportation. For example, you can get a call that a cat scratched me, so they'll call you. I have a headache, they will call you. I have a cold, things like that. While they are an emergency and they do want to seek treatment, they can go to one of the minor clinics, right, and get treatment there. They don't need to call in ambulance for that. So if they were asking if you were to put out trainings to educate the public, right, of when to call 911 and when not to call 911, I guess. On recognition and morale boosting, they were asking if we could do more professional recognition programs to show the appreciation for their paramedics for their achievements. So on the action plan, the survey conducted with the paramedics indicated burnout presents a serious issue mainly attributed to insufficient staffing, excessive workloads, lack of departmental support, and emotional strain. The following recommendations provide management with an effective approach to solving this issue. So addressing the staffing shortages by hiring additional personnel to implement a more efficient ambulance rotation, which will then focus into the scheduling 1 day on and 2 days off. That staffing shortages obviously is a long-term plan, because for the fire department, in order for them from beginning to the end of their training, it takes 2 years. And currently we do have two academies going on that is going to address that shortage. And the chief also has already plans on hiring 2 more academies when these 2 finish, right, into the coming year. Develop a more formalized burnout prevention program, including counseling services and resilience training. That, in a way, we already have that going on, because we do have also a psychologist on hand that can talk to them. And I know through HR, we offer programs that they can go and attend trainings that will help them with that. Offer wellness incentives such as a mental health day per year. It obviously comes in because it deals with money and having a day off and having to hire staff but it can be looked at, right? So develop an alternative strategy, such as using a paramedic-only response unit for lower priority calls, reducing unnecessary strain on full EMS teams. With that one, what I was suggesting is like maybe having one medic vehicle that could go to calls that when they come in through 911, they get screened and they're probably a lower acuity, if you will. So they would go and check the patient and recommend to the patient if let's just say the patient saying, I have a headache, right? Recommend to them, why don't you go to one of the lower clinics, minor emergency clinics, instead of going to the emergency room and having an ambulance out of service, to take you. They can also go like that. I know there's other cities like San Antonio that offer like vouchers for the patients, so they will go, and if the call does not necessitate the ambulance, they'll give the voucher so that they can call an Uber or a taxi, and the city pays for it. That would be my recommendation on that one. And lastly, obviously, launch a public awareness campaign to educate the community on appropriate EMS usage to reduce non-emergency calls. That goes back to talking to the fire chief and having our PIOs maybe put out in social media information, right, on when and the right reasons to call 911. So that was the action plan that I recommended. So in conclusion, the findings of this practicum show that paramedic burnout is prevalent within the Laredo Fire Department, affecting both personnel well-being and overall emergency medical service delivery. Through the use of a survey, this researcher was able to obtain data indicating that some of the key contributors to paramedic burnout within the department are staffing shortages, high call volumes, and lack of knowledge of departmental support. Additionally, most respondents expressed concerns about the impact of burnout on job performance, patient interactions, and personal well-being. To address these challenges, recommendations were given to increase staffing levels, improve shift rotations, and develop a formalized burnout prevention program. Taking a proactive approach to combat paramedic burnout is beneficial to paramedics and crucial for maintaining a resilient and effective emergency medical response team. Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez, thank you so much for your presentation. If you haven't heard it recently, thank you so much for your service to you and everybody else that is in the department as frontline medical staff. Of course, you know that it's pivotal, right? If we, the way that we support people can change the trajectory of the outcome, right? Especially in medicine. And so thank you for your service in that. I was very pleased to see the citations that you provided, especially from Herbert Freudenhauser, I believe is his name. Yes, and so I was really glad to see that in the depth of your research. It's not just, because in hindsight, originally when you started speaking, it's like, oh, well, staffing, of course. But also, what else goes into the burnout? Is it, I don't want to support, is it coming out to the at the end consumer? Is it something that's affecting your personal life? And maybe for different people that's different. But I was really glad to see that. I do have some questions for you and then some comments. So I know you talked about there were 35 people that were surveyed. I'm a data girl, right? So how many paramedics are there, or EMT professionals?
So right now the fire department is comprised of like 363 uniform personnel. So out of those 363, I don't have the exact number with me, but it's over 100 that are the paramedics that are on the actual rotation.
Okay.
Because we have the different ranks, and that's what I'm saying. 363 counting chiefs, captains, and
Sure.
drivers, and all.
Yes. Okay. So maybe like a third, maybe that were were surveyed.
Yes.
Okay. That was one of the questions that I had. The other thing was, I love the ideas that you provided in terms of your action plan. So the public perception, I was thinking of that, and then you said it, right? Like different ways that we can provide awareness in order to help maybe less different acuity, as far as like the sensitivity of each call. Changing of the schedule, you mentioned that as well. The idea of vouchers, that's also great. If they're calling us and it's not something that warrants sending out, and I know the vehicles are expensive because I've toured the facility, but maybe the vouchers, I like that idea too. One thing when we talk about, and this might be, again, from a macro level, like a longer term study, like you were mentioning, in terms of staffing and those kind of needs, and I'm glad to see that there are several academies that are going on. I think one thing is to assess an immediate need, the fact that there are people with burnout, and the other thing is to look at data. How can this affect us in 5 years or in 10 years as the city grows in population? Because that's what we do, right?
Yes,
Looking and evaluating where we are in terms of, like you said, the calls that we get maybe at Bartlett or at Delmar, or you know, maybe some of the ones that are really, really heavy responses. What are the changing needs and the demands? I think that's going to be important. And then it looks like there is some study on that with the succession plan. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
So when it comes to the calls, and like I said, it all depends what part of town you're at, obviously, right? Like I said, on Bartlett, that station is the one that by far is always having the most amount of calls, and it's also because the population there are more elderly, right? Than the north side. The north side obviously has the least amount of calls because the people, younger people, I guess, and you know the whether you want to believe it or not, the stereotype of the North and the South does come into play of why they call. But as far as if you're saying like where it would take us in 5 years, or
Yes, so is there any data, and it might not have been part of the practicum, is there any data about that as far as, you know, of course, we say we need more paramedics, we need more, but are there thresholds or anything like that that we have to consider? If we see that the population of the city changes by 20,000 people in X amount of time, how do we warrant? One thing is making the job available, in other words, is there a need? And what does that process look like? Are you familiar?
So I know like right now with the referendum that's going on, we did have a study and we are trying to add more fire stations, right, to address the increasing population. Chief Hurt did have a study come in back in maybe I think it was 2019 around there, and they did address the need of fire stations in certain areas of the city. So right now our vision is hopefully trying to bring from 15 fire stations to 18 fire stations. But remember, right now we have 15 fire stations. We only have 12 ambulances. So also we're trying to address by adding more ambulances to the fire stations that don't have an ambulance. For example, the one that's inside the airport, the one on Maher Street, that one does not have an ambulance. The need for an ambulance there is there because that station would take some of the workload off of the station that is on Barley, which is the one of the busiest one that I was telling you about, right? So, and by opening the other fire stations, also in adding an ambulance there, that would increase, you know, the amount of units available to respond and help out with the increase of population. Because I mean, yes, the city is exploding in population.
Right. Excellent, thank you. She stole all the good comments. Sorry. That's okay. First, I related to you right away because you were talking about how you've been working for 28 years and you absolutely love your job. And
yes, ma'am.
I've been a teacher for 28 years and I still love being a teacher. So I'm happy that you have that enthusiasm because for some of us it's still out there that we still have that. What I found so interesting about your research is that you first started talking about how this is a high-stress job. And there's been a lot of research and a lot of literature out there about, you mentioned 3 things, constant exposure, emotional labor, and I can't read my writing on the last one, so you won't.
Organizational support, yes.
Organizational support, thank you. And those are the ones we all know about. But then you touched on something else that maybe you got from your own survey results, is that maybe what's burning out our firefighters is not necessarily those 3 things, but people using the 911 service for things that could probably be used in urgent care.
Yes.
Right. And you touched on something else, that socioeconomic factors, right, have an influence on someone calling 911 because they can't afford to go see a doctor. Right, and I like your ideas about paying for an Uber or providing vouchers for urgent care. I think that might be, in the long run, a cost-saving option for the city and for the fire department, right?
Yes.
And by the way, my house does use the Bartlett, so I would appreciate 2 ambulances in that area.
He's back there, the person that you would need to talk to.
Other than that, on top of all of that, you gave a wonderful, compelling presentation. You did good research, and again, very proud of you. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right, so I want to start off by just thanking you for the topic. and for all the work that all the emergency responders do, particularly in ambulance service, right? You know, a lot of individuals, you know, seeing my parents, you know, getting up there in age, thankfully they have, you know, our family that supports them. But I can see the need in the area where my parents live, that it's an aging population in that particular neighborhood. And sadly enough, there's a lot of elderly that live by themselves, right? Or the resources that come into play. But nonetheless, one of the things that I found very intriguing in your presentation is because I participate in this through the veteran community, and there's a local organization that also expands or extends their services to all emergency responders. In this particular organization, what they focus on is the camaraderie and the resiliency and the emotional well-being of the individuals just by getting out and doing outdoor activities. So you touched on the resiliency aspect of that, and I think that really goes a long way in really understanding what y'all get to see on a constant exposure. And not every call is the same, but even sometimes anticipating when you know it's a bad call and you're getting there, how some of those issues can be traumatic over time, and how do you deal with that, right? Knowing that from the very beginning, just in the occupation that an individual chose, but I would like to see, because it's a great thing, I would like to see two things kind of like continue in the work that you've already suggested and that you've laid out. One would be to highlight on the best practices of individuals. How have they been able to continue staying in their field for 28 years? And there's a lot to learn from an individual like yourself and your colleagues in what are those best practices, how they get through, and sharing that amongst a division, a department, and not only there, but then expanding that to Laredo Fire Department and to the police department, because again, you all work hand in hand in a lot of these things. So I see there's a lot of correlation in that burnout between all three entities, right? So I think you're really onto something here, and really kind of highlight those things that are working for individuals, and try to do that at the front end when you have new employees coming in, and getting them ready for that, right? Because, I mean, until you're in that scene, I mean, nothing can really prepare you. But when you know you have that support, that management support, that organizational support that you're leading to, it really is going to help, you know, not take a toll on individuals as fast as it should be. So again, great work. And the last thing that I want to mention for emergency responders, I mean, y'all do a lot. It's just the work schedule that y'all do, I mean, that's hard in itself. I cannot picture somebody working 24 hours a day, right? I know, people think I'm a fire department, they're doing barbecues, washing the trash, you know? But everything else that y'all do, I mean, it really is a lot, and it really takes a person with a big heart to be able to do the work that y'all do. But again, I think you're into something, and really would like to continue seeing, highlighting those things that are working for those individuals and sharing that amongst your community. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Mr. Gonzalez, I want to thank you for your commitment to our community. I think that your level of insight is important to voice, because I think one of the things that stood out about your presentation is that definitely it's a timely topic, especially after COVID. I think that the incidence of burnout is even higher. I like the fact that the employee voice is heard and it's validated, because you did get 35 responses out of 35 surveys, which means that your team is eager to see some change and they want to be part of that change. The community education aspect, I think, is important as well, to help the community understand how to use the services. And I love the integration of social media. I think that sometimes with some of our community entities, it's important that they get out there, because sometimes people think that it's just something that you waste time on because people just kind of scroll. But a lot of people are getting their information and their news now that way. Yes. So I think that that's a really important point. Your presentation addresses all the aspects of the problem that you presented, which I loved. One suggestion that I have is, although you went to minimal approach with your presentation, add images to give face to your people. Create that sense of urgency, right? What is a typical day in their life? And it could be something as simple as a picture of somebody in the middle and then blurbs of a call, a cat, a stroke, to kind of give us that sense of what my colleague just mentioned. It's not that they're just kind of waiting, right? It's there's all these things that are happening while you're trying to wait for somebody to come and give you service. You're not understanding that all of these other things, and this is why we need the money, because we need the change, and we need, right? So that sense of urgency is important. I would love to hear quality of service survey from our community in terms of what is their perception of us, right, as a
Yes.
team? How are we coming across to them? Because our employees are facing burnout, but they might also want to hear from the community all the positive things that the community is seeing on their behalf. Like, a lot of them felt that the way that they did their job did not change, whether or not they were burned out, which means that they themselves hold themselves to a higher standard of care and excellence, and therefore our community may be seeing that. And sometimes we need to hear that you know what, we want you to know that you had a terrible day and you're not resting and you're burned out, but yet I couldn't tell, right? And so I think that's important. The other suggestion I have would be, I love the metaphor of the unusable veins, right? However, I would strategically say to change the wording of becoming useless, and I would say becoming stressed, because I don't want one of my team members to think, oh, that's the way he sees me, that now I'm a useless vein. In other words, if I'm useless, there is no way to change that or make me better. But if I'm stressed, there is a way for me to become less stressed or unstressed, right? But other than that, great job.
Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Then just let them know. Thank you.
I know, like I have one in my office.
Miss Diana, you're gonna stay this?
Yes.
Okay. We're down to the last presenter, and we'll do this tomorrow. Carol will try to do She's been, I've been watching her this morning, and I can see that she was probably wanting to do it first today, so that is okay. Our last presenter, her name is Carol Thurkill, and she's the Assistant Human Resources Director. She's going to be presenting on balancing work and well-being, the role of flexible work schedule in employee satisfaction and retention. Ms. Carol.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Hi, well, good afternoon. My name is Carolina Thurkettle, and as Ms. Pimenta had indicated, I am the Assistant Director for the Human Resources Department. I have been employed with the city for over 20 years, and my practicum is going to focus on the importance of the timely issue of balancing work and well-being through the implementation of flexible work schedules. This presentation is based on my research into how flexible work programs such as remote work, hybrid models, and compressed work weeks affect employee satisfaction and retention. I conducted this research as part of my research for the Certificate for Public Management program through Texas A&M International University. I also want to take this time to thank Dr. Haruna and Susan Foster from Texas A&M International University for the skilled knowledge and guidance during these last 9 months of our program. I also want to thank City Management, together with the Human Resources Department, for being able to bring back this beneficial program
to our employees in order to provide more professional development for themselves. And finally, the support of my cohort colleagues and my department team for providing the encouragement along the way through my process of this program. So the practicum target, did you know that flexible arrangements such as hybrid, remote, and compressed work weeks have increased up to 22% over the last 5 years? And typically, the biggest cause was the pandemic. That was the biggest uptick of why we have, and those type of programs have been incorporated in a lot of private and public agencies. The target of this practicum is to evaluate the impact of flexible work schedules on employee morale, retention, and productivity. The research specifically focuses on public sector organization using the City of Laredo as the case study. This setting was chosen due to its diverse departmental functions and relevance to broader environmental operations, analyzing employees' feedback and operational challenges. The goal is to offer practical recommendations that can improve workforce engagement and efficiencies. The objective of this topic is to explore the role of flexible scheduling in enhancing employee satisfaction, reducing turnover, and fostering organizational commitment. In today's competitive job market, retaining talent is critical. Industry standards indicate that turnover ratio should be under 10%. The City of Laredo right now's turnover ratio is at 15%. Flexible schedules empowers employees by giving them autonomy over their work hours, which reduces stress and improves work-life balance. This abstract summarizes these findings and underscores the potential of such programs to strengthen public sector performance. The literature review synthesizes key information and findings from a variety of studies. The 4 areas that were reviewed as part of this literature review were flexible work arrangements and employee engagement, employee retention and flexible work, challenges in implementing a flexible schedule, and organizational outcomes of flexible work programs. Each study demonstrated that leadership support is critical in implementing successful flexible work programs. Research also emphasizes instructional backing and clear communication on how hybrid and/or compressed work weeks can boost up to 40% in productivity. Other studies highlight environmental benefits, reduce burnout, and increase job satisfaction. These insights provide solid foundations for understanding both advantages and challenges of flexible scheduling. To support the literature with practical data, a survey was conducted among employees in various departments of the City of Laredo. The study gathered responses from both management and non-management staff. The goal was to capture current scheduling practices, employee performance, and their perception of how flexible scheduling might affect their work experience. The survey results serve as a vital component in forming actionable insight. For the methodology, it includes distributing a digital survey via email to selected departments. A purposeful sampling strategy ensured participation from employees across different roles. The survey featured both multiple choice and open-ended questions to gather both quantitative and qualitative data. Responses were analyzed to identify needs and relationships between flexible work preferences and outcomes like morale, retention, and job satisfaction. The key findings included the fact that most departments currently do not offer flexible schedules. However, a compressed work week emerged as the preferred model among respondents versus a hybrid schedule. So here in this pie chart, it indicates that based on 65 employees that were surveyed, the preferred scheduling that they liked was the compressed work week versus a hybrid work schedule. Hybrid work schedules blends in both in office and also remote work, whereas a compressed work week is an alternative work schedule where employees still work their 40 hours in fewer than traditional 5 work days. A common version is a 4-day, 10-hour work schedule and having an additional day off. Okay. Operations services to our constituents will remain open as usual, Monday to Friday, but with scattered schedules. The next slide indicates the impact of job satisfaction of flexible work schedule availability. Many employees believe flexible work would increase their job satisfaction and improve morale. It would allow them to have a more balance between family and work and reduce commute stress. In regards to the perceived effect of productivity and engagement, there were some, the majority of the employees that were surveyed did not think that it would cause any effects to the productivity of their work versus the ones that did think that there may be some interruptions in regards to having these type of programs this type of programs in place. Some of the concerns that were expressed by employees were communication challenges that can arise, an uneven workload distribution, or the impact of customer service depending on the type of field that they're working in within the organization itself. I did go ahead and I also looked into our 6 index cities, which are City of San Antonio, Corpus Christi, McAllen, Bronzeville, Harlingen, and El Paso. And out of those 6 index cities, City of San Antonio and City of El Paso offer flexible work arrangements within their organization and it's all based on the type of work environment that the department has, but they do offer these type of programs within their organizations. Recommendations. Based on the research, several recommendations were formed. Organizations should gain leadership support, train managers on supervising flexible teams, and develop clear, consistent policies. Technology should be leveraged to ensure smooth communication and collaboration. It is also important to involve employees in the planning stages to increase a buy-in and address any concerns before rolling out such program. For the plan of action, it involves several strategy steps. First one being is to secure executive alignment and commitment to the pilot program. Conduct leadership training on managing hybrid and/or compressed work schedule. Establish a support network of departmental champions and HR and IT task forces. Define eligibility, the performance and expectation criteria in order for a flexible work schedule to be put into place. Launch a pilot in selected departments and evaluate results through surveys and performance metrics. Departments can then benefit from those types of schedules that I feel that would benefit them would be finance, our budget department, our IT department, legal, certain areas in human resources, just to name a few departments that could benefit from these type of programs. Throughout the program itself, it would be very beneficial to have feedback from the participants every 30, 90, 80 days to see how is the program working, is it a viable program to continue through, and then scale and implementation based on pilot outcomes. Now with anything, there can be challenges and considerations. Despite the benefits, challenges do remain. Resistance for leadership, communication breakdowns, and coordination issues may hinder success. Additionally, departments with 24/7 responsibilities may face unique scheduling difficulties. Environmental sustainability must also be considered, such as balancing commuting reductions and residential energy use. And addressing these concerns requires thoughtful policy design and ongoing evaluation. And in conclusion, flexible work arrangements offer significant potential to improve employee well-being and organizational outcomes. With leadership support, robust technology, and clear policies, public sector organizations can implement these type of models. The City of Laredo case study provides valuable insight into how flexible scheduling can be a strategic tool for employee retention, satisfaction, and overall performance. Thank you. I open it up for any feedback or questions.
Thank you so much for that. I try to live and breathe this information, and I read a lot of articles about it. And then also from previous experience, I think a lot of people who have been, especially all of us went through COVID, right? Most of us were working at the time. Some of us were also in supervisory roles, and so having experienced that and those challenges, I can see where there's pros and cons. I'm so glad that you addressed the support from administration, because that's pivotal, right? The support, the interest, but also the resistance, and why the resistance, right? How do you manage someone that isn't physically in the office, at least if it's remote, right? Or how do you manage someone if your schedule is different from theirs, right? And so I think it'd be interesting to see how those things would be addressed. And you may have some insight already with that, right? I see you're smiling. So I had a comment with that. The other thing to think about, and I'm so happy that you thought of it, is the infrastructure challenges, right? A lot of organizations that do offer, especially like remote work, there are costs associated with doing that, right? They may need a computer installed at their house. How do you troubleshoot that? Those types of things. And so I'm really excited to see that you thought about that. Do you have any comments regarding any of those two things?
Well, I know that if it comes to like the technology, having that support, one is, at least from the research I did, is do you offer those that are going to work either remote or hybrid? Providing them the tools that they need while they're doing their work at home, because ultimately they're still doing the job that needs to be done for the work that they're being paid for, right? And it's going to have some cost associated, and so ensuring that those departments that do decide to run with this program, that they are financially ready to be able to provide that support, and then obviously working very closely together with our IT departments to be able to provide that remote technical support.
Right. One of the things in my line of work that I do, of course, in career services, I talk to a lot of employers, not just locally, like brand-wise, international organizations, and so that's one of the other things. There are some organizations that will pay for the computer, but there are some that, of course, will also pay for the Wi-Fi, right? What if somebody, we'd like to think everyone has Wi-Fi, but they not, maybe they
Or
need
even
a strong.
provide like a stipend.
Yes,
for those
exactly,
type of-
something like that. And so that's some of the things I'm hearing. On a different note, I did hear about this, and just something to think about, should it be implemented? I've seen some articles on some organizations who are so opposed to it because there are people that have 4 or 5 full-time jobs, and they're just like, I don't know, maybe moving the mouse ever so frequently. I don't know how they do it, but there's like a dark underworld of that, right? And so I'm sure that, there are certain things that we have to do in our jobs descriptions that need to get done on a day-to-day basis. I think, just being mindful of that, what is the student, or rather, what is the employee expected to accomplish, and how do we quantify that, right, on a daily basis? That might be something to consider as well. It's going to look different for different departments, but a lot of studies have shown exactly what you're saying, and so I'm glad to see with the sample size that you had that there is interest in something like that, and innovative ways to support employees and to make them feel comfortable and make sure that we retain them at the end of the day. So thank you so much.
And
for
also
that.
having that work-life balance.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
So one of the things that was interesting that you said is that I think there is kind of this like misconception that when people are on a flex schedule that they're less productive.
Right.
Right, and maybe that's like the seedy underbelly of what they, and that's not really necessarily the case. Do some people abuse those systems? Probably, but look how unproductive we can be in a 40-hour work week, right? Which is why some companies have moved to more flexible work conditions. I'm actually an advocate of a 32-hour work week. Because I feel like if we had fewer hours to be productive, we would be more productive, right? And so that's where that kind of concept lies. Yeah, maybe I should just move to Spain. I don't know. One of those countries
There are studies about
yes,
that.
that
you know.
have 32-hour work weeks and how that they're actually more productive. And the U.S. is very unique in that the 40-hour work week is not common anywhere else around the world, but in the United States.
Correct. Europe has more 32, 35
32
hours.
to 35, the 40, and then in reality, Americans work anywhere between 40 and 80 hours
Correct.
a week, right, depending. But I also understand your challenges, and I'm glad that you picked those up because this is the city, right? And we do provide vital services to people who are not available before 5 p.m.
Correct.
Right, and so I more like the idea of those flexible work schedules and maybe people starting later in the day to be able to leave city offices open
Or more in the evening. for
more,
those. Correct.
maybe not every day of the week, right? But 2 days out of the week, you open up a little better. You had a wonderful sample size, maybe a few more questions, right? So that you could get some more information and also have the employees give them questions with other options, about maybe a reduced hours of the week or whatever it may be. But other than that, great job. The challenges I'm trying to look at some things I wrote here, were not surprising, right? They were almost programmed in this country to work 40 hours a week.
Correct.
When, like I said, in reality, we are not productive for 40 hours out of the week. And so, and maybe also as part of your study, or if you were to implement this, work on the total employee as well, making the employee more productive, not just working flexible hours, but having the employee understand the importance of being productive within the hours that they work, right? Because that's also, again, I think we're not really used to it in this country, right? Or even here. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I get to work in the morning and the first 15 minutes is spent, doing I don't know what, talking or saying hi to people or being social or whatever it is. And I think I could have used that 15, 20 minutes to read my emails, right? To catch up on grading or do whatever I needed to do. But we look at the workplaces sometimes because we want to have work-life balance as being a more social environment as well. But all very interesting. I found your study fascinating.
Thank you.
Good job.
Absolutely. So congratulations on your topic, very contemporary, and it's also a very hot topic, right? And also debatable topic, right? So I can already kind of see let's just call it the Elon Musk effect. Getting the emails, what 5 things, leave me 5 things that you did this week.
Yeah.
Just because of the general distrust, when people don't see you, they think you're not working. But I think generally speaking, a lot of individuals in public service, because of technology, sometimes, we, like educators, they continue working from home. They continue grading from home or teaching from home. And it's just a normal thing nowadays to go into this. We see it more on the private setting. My wife, for example, she's an RN and she works from home. When she first told me she was working from home, I'm like, how is a nurse going to work from home? Like, who are you nursing, right? But it's shifted into doing casework, case management, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails. And, she's very productive in what she does. And so it takes a very special kind of individual, responsible individual, a self-starter to be able to do this kind of work, somebody that is dependable and trustworthy. Hence, one of my questions for you, right? And just kind of being the devil's advocate here. And you don't have to answer this, but just kind of food for thought. But it'd be good to kind of go out there and just, anticipate some things. And you kind of did to an extent. But the question would be, what possible perceptions do you anticipate from the general public in their buy-in, right? Being a public entity, while we as employees, staff, we're like, yes, we can see it work in this department, and that's great. But how about from the public perception? how do we sell that to them, right? Especially when we hear about you work for me, the accountability, the transparency. So in the project, anticipating that or doing some type of a, a media blitz, if you will, focus groups to get that insight of what potential resistance that we might have from the general public, right? Because I can already hear them, oh, they're not working here, they're giving themselves
my tax
another
permit?
day off, so on and so forth. I'm actually fortunate enough to when I first got to the college where I currently work at, and I only had it for one semester. I started in May of 2012, and it was, the summers were basically 4-day weeks. Linda recalls those days.
Yes,
And that year that I started, it was the first summer session, that it seemed even strange working 10 hours. I'm like, what am I doing? It's like, it's already dark outside, I want to go home. Not knowing that a lot of the work that I do, I end up working more than 10 hours, even in a regular work week. But for one summer session, I got to experience the 3-day weekend, which you referenced earlier in one of the compressed schedules.
yes.
But for a lot of individuals, like my colleagues have mentioned, individuals know that it's almost as a reward. So you try to get everything done, so that you can have that. Unfortunately, we don't have that any longer, but we do have a schedule that continues that we work half days and Fridays. And it does go a long way in people planning their days and being able to get other things done. So I see the value behind that. But nonetheless, being a public entity, the perception from the public would be an issue. The other question I would have in preparing to launch something like this is how can the flexible schedules be fairly promoted and implemented in a public setting of those occupations that don't allow for the flexible schedule, right? So the other buy-in is going to be within their other colleagues. While one department may work and another one doesn't, and you already kind of have, different schedules laid out as it was presented by EMS, and what they have. But nonetheless, from the rest of the public employees, they're going to question that, right? And some occupations don't allow for a flexible schedule. Maybe a compressed schedule might be something that's better suited for them. So seeing a citywide study on that, I think would really give us a great insight, because then one particular schedule may not work across all. The issue then is, how do we promote it and how do we sell this program and how do we get the public buy-in, right? But excellent topic, again, hot topic, and I would love to see a little bit more of this happen within the city of Laredo. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
I reiterate that. I think that it's a well-rounded presentation. You've got your data, you've got the employee perspective, which I think is very important in this case. I even think that this idea that you have about the flexible schedules could be a perk or a selling point for possible recruits, right? And so I'm interested in the demographics of, from that percentage of people, the 45% that said that they agreed it would affect their productivity. Like, what is the age range? Is it our millennials? Is it our young kids that are coming in and looking for that flexibility, right? So that could be an attractive selling point for these particular population. I think also the other thing that I loved was the topics you gave me about your literature review, because I can see there how the trajectory and the overall wheelhouse of the flexibility, you targeted every single thing, including the challenges. So some of the things that we're not foreseeing yet are how it would work in our area. So I'm interested to see that perhaps to your presentation, you could add a couple of sources, maybe like the top 5 in a reference sheet of the ones that you found most impactful for your research. Because I think it would also give us an idea of, you already foresee some of these challenges because it came out in your research, and this is how they mitigated those obstacles that we could use here. So it's already becomes a moot point in terms of why would this not be doable. And I think we can go so much as to say that you could even have a control and experiential pilot, right? Where you have a group of them, and it could be an option. It doesn't mean that it's got to be for everybody, but it could be an option. And the other thing also is, as Mr. Gonzalez had mentioned in his presentation, right, that social media can be used to your advantage in terms of City of Laredo team working for you. We've heard you. We know that you need services at other hours, so we've staggered our team. You're gonna get service around the clock, right? And so the way that you project it to the community also can be a selling point, right? So you've got a lot of great material to work with here. I think it's just a matter of now kind of putting it in play, because I think that your answer in terms of what you want for a solution is very ambitious, but it's multifaceted, and which is great, but I think that you're gonna have to start with one point and then kind of scaffold on, right? Other than that, fantastic, good job.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, that was great. So let me just give y'all some really quick information. 43% of y'all's presentation is based on human capital. So I heard, and it took a lot of me to sit here and not say anything, because it's a lot of my areas that I feel comfortable in talking about, but I had to let the process go. So let me just give you some really, really quick data. The city of Laredo has 3,000 employees on any given day. We have 29 departments. We have over 42 divisions. We also have all the way from the silent generation all the way to the possibly looking at the alpha beta generation. And you're absolutely right. We have challenges before us because we don't have the workforce that we did have even 10, 20 years ago. The pandemic changed the way that we work. The pandemic changed the way that we have to attract and retain our employees, and that is the challenge. So it's evolving. We are evolving. We have a management team that is willing to explore out of the norms that we normally have worked under the last 10 years. So we are developing those. We also have more than 800 hours of contact training that's been going on under the leadership of Sulema and her team. We also have other divisions. We have risk management. We have health and wellness. Our employees matter to the city of Laredo, and we want to take care of our employees. We want to develop our employees, as you can see with this type of program that we have for our employees. We understand that. We do have the silent leaders. I think I heard this in one of the presentations. They may not have that title, but they have that influence over their colleagues, which we want to. So what you all don't know, but I do have this conversation with management on a regular basis. They have a listing of all our CPM, our leaderships. When those ad hoc projects come up that require immediate action, we pull those team members from those teams and we put them on an ad hoc committee, and they actually solve the issues. So you're absolutely right. What I've heard today is being put into practice. And I'm very proud to see that the program has continued to develop. I'm proud to see that the people that are in this room today are going to be driving our organization. Laredo is very unique. We are a border community, but we not only serve the 260,000 people that live in Laredo, we also service a community south of us, which is another country. So you're talking about the resources of one tax base, and we're covering two countries to make this organization work. So there is a lot of great things going on in our departments, our department directors. Chief Hurd and his team has been very innovative in dealing with the mental health. We recognize the mental health of a firefighter, a police officer, the well-being of them. We understand that, and he's had professionals coming in from outside of Laredo, from Houston, that addresses that. We have an EAP program that is very vibrant for our employees. I'm very proud to say that his team is working on addressing that because it is important to us. We do spend a lot of money in developing our firefighters and police officers, but we also recognize the mental health of our staff. So with that being said, Chief, great job with you and your management team and all the directors that have been here to support our employees. We obviously cannot do it without the support of our council, our management, and the great team that we have here for the city of Laredo. So panelists, thank you for your perspective. CPM cohorts, thank you for the perspective that you've given us. And we look forward in, looking deeper into what y'all presented today. 43% was human capital, and 43% is very important to the city of Laredo. So thank you for all that information. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sulema. She wants to show her appreciation, and she's attention to detail, and I'm going to let Sulema take over.
At the risk of taking any more of your time, you've been very generous with your time today. Okay, but I do want to say, and piggybacking on what Linda just mentioned, we're not satisfied with the status quo over training. being the department manager for that specific division. And I know Daniela and Mr. Hernandez know that I'm very passionate about training. This is just one more component of how we're not satisfied with the status quo. This is the first CPM cohort that has had a panel of experts giving them feedback. And I'll be very honest with you, when I first told them that they were gonna have outsiders giving them feedback, they were like, who, what, when, where, that's never been done. But I really do feel that this cohort, in hindsight, have grown, have gotten so much feedback that they can now apply. And I see the wheels turning where maybe they had hesitated on writing a white paper for publishing, where they're going to be challenged to move it in that direction. This is my goal, okay? I have to think about now, I've added the panel of experts. How am I going to grow the next CPM cohort to challenge them even more? Because that is my passion, okay? We're not going to settle for the status quo. How do we make it better? So, having said that, thank you for your time. I just have a little token of appreciation. Daniela, leadership is going to wait for you, so don't, okay? So, Daniela Rodriguez, will you come down for just a second, and we're going to take some pictures. Daniela is our instructor for the leadership development course. She has also presented another leadership workshop, and she is working on a PhD on ethical leadership from Baylor University. And I have already, to me, she's already Dr. Danila. Not yet. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. To stay hydrated. Albert Hernandez from Laredo College. You know, this is bad. When I have their phone numbers, I keep calling them. Yelitza Howard. Yelitza works for Human Resources at TAMU. And she sits on one of my commissions too. Yeah.
As a public servant, this has been very rewarding for me to be able to hear what other public servants are doing, and so thank you very much for that.
And last but definitely not least, Linda Ramirez. You get to keep it this time.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I got one of these yesterday, but she took it from me.
I said,
Thank you.
so, and then what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a picture of them, and the 6 presenters that presented today, I wanna take a picture of you all with your panel. So the 6 presenters,
You want to just please step a little bit to your left? Mr. Hernandez, just a little bit more closer. A little more. There we go. Okay, yes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. One moment.
okay, so presenters,
Thank you. Now we're gonna get the.
okay,
the presenter.
go in there with your panelists.
Let's do 3 and 3. Either side. Miss Viviana on this side or this side? Yes, please. In front of Carol. There we go. Thank you. Okay, 1. a little bit closer. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Right over here.
Right, thank you.
All the way. Get close.
1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
One, two, three.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you. Now, my panelists, I don't know, you have 5 more minutes. We're gonna present recognitions and we can be on the line. Linda? Ms. Linda?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so again, you know, cohort participants, that your graduation is scheduled for June the 9th. We do not have a time yet. As soon as we know the time, we're gonna let CBB know where they will reserve a block of rooms for you all, and you're more than welcome to take your families. I'm gonna send you more details as soon as we finalize the time. But in the meantime, this is a recognition for your hard work. We're gonna start off with Sandra Montante Alemán.
Are we having one picture per each, or are we doing a whole group?
One picture for
Okay.
each and then we'll do a
Of
group.
course. So then, Miss Sandra, I'm gonna need you in the middle, please, right there. Miss Foster, a little closer. There we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
1, 2, 3.
One more, please.
Thank you.
The next person is Marcela Cervantes, who also has perfect attendance.
Miss Foster? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Our next honoree, Noemí Arlet Cienfuegos.
One, two, three.
Okay, one more, please. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Our next honoree, Manuel de Luna Jr.
Right.
One more. 1, 2. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next honoree, with perfect attendance, Barbara Escamilla.
Ready? One more. 1, 2, 3. Thanks. Congratulations.
Our next honoree, also with perfect attendance, Ricardo Galvan.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Our next honoree. Sorry, guys. Roberto Gonzalez.
One, two, three.
And last one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. Thanks.
Dr. Viviana Martinez.
There we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. Thanks.
Jose D. Oyervides.
One, two, three. There you
One more. 1, 2, 3. One more. Thank you.
Carolina G. Thurkettle.
go. One, two, three.
One more, one more. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Amanda Christie Tienda.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. Thank you.
And last but not least, with perfect attendance, San Juanita Ruby Zavala.
One, two, three. There you go.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
And I give one small recognition to Susan Foster and appreciation. As we conclude our program, group picture. Thank you. Group picture. Hurry up. Before we lose our panelists.
I guess, yes, relax. Manuel doesn't want to put it down anywhere. He's taking pictures with it. There's a lot of Of course. Very well deserved. Yes, of course. Jose. I am gonna try to get a couple of them that I do have their numbers and they can share to everyone. And then we'll do something special after. We're doing a press release as well. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel that you're gonna think of everything.
If y'all can move a little further forward, and we can have someone in the back. Taller, Jose, taller, right in between.
Oh my gosh, every time I cough, I
Between
go,
them.
no, I'm coughing.
Manuel, get over here. Carol, can you get in front, please?
It's not even a cough.
In front of Manuel.
What?
No, vete para acá, Manuel, on this side. There we go. There we go. Ahí.
I'm making sure that I spent my size 11.
I hear you, girl. I have shoes that make me like that. That's perfect. A little bit closer right here. Okay. I have two phones here, so 1 second. Give me a second. 1, 2, 3. One second. Another phone, 1 second. 1, 2, 3. Right here.
1, 2, 3.
Back here. Acérquese, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
How did you get such a great capture?
Yeah, from all the way up there.
Well, I'm not that tall, so.
You also should identify as 5'11", like Barbara.
I'm 4'10". I'm not even 4'11", I'm 4'10".
Okay, I'm gonna take a small video. So just smile.
Shorter than me.
Here
I'm
we go.
4'11". I'm the shortest of the shortest. I'm so bad.
Okay, thank you so much. And congratulations.
I'm smaller.